Chapter 54:31. Especially when she saw that the butler had asked people to bring out the family's various account books and the list of interpersonal relationships. It was detailed to the extent of when the family had children, birth dates, hobbies, when their status was promoted, and whether the family had declined. Such a thick and tall book made Xiao Xuexi's eyes go blank. This was just the management of the Qing family, and it did not include the business outside. Of course, Xiao Xuexi did not need to be responsible for the outside matters. She only needed to manage the Qing family's affairs and interpersonal relationships. But just this alone made her head swell. Usually she did not see anything happening in the Qing family. Why were there so many things? There were interpersonal relationships almost every month. Some just needed to send gifts and some needed the family to go in person. If they went in person, they had to make new clothes and custom-make accessories. These could not be wrong. They had to be presentable. This was the treatment and welfare of the Qing family's servants. After reading for a day, Xiao Xuexi did not read 2 books. Fortunately, the butler was by her side to guide her. Otherwise, she would not be able to read 2 books. Tang was sat on a rattan chair in the small courtyard, waving a fan, basking in the sun and eating fruits. Her days were very comfortable. This time, the butler's matter would not fall on her so easily. Qing Zifeng was not at home. He went out with old Master Qing and Qing Zixiao went out with him. The Qing family's business was very big and the 3 father and son were busy every day. Basically, it was old Master Qing who took Qing Zifeng to do things, and Qing Zixiao was considered to be their assistant. Qing Zifeng treated Qing Zixiao well, and Qing Zixiao respected him as an elder brother. Outsiders knew that the 2 brothers of the Qing family were very close. As the saying went, brothers united, their sharpness could cut through gold. Many people envied them. Previously, when the bride was sent to the wrong bridal chamber, everyone in Yu City knew that it was Qing Zixiao who did it. They wanted to see the 2 brothers fall out, but they did not expect Qing Zifeng to not mind at all. He still treated Qing Zixiao the same as before. It made people exclaim that the relationship between the brothers was good, and that Qing Zifeng was magnanimous. At night, Qing Zifeng returned home. Xiao Xuexi complained to him. The butler was too tired and there were too many things that she really could not do. I don't know how to do these things. Why don't we let Xiaoguo do it? She is a family Tang girl, so she will definitely do these things in an orderly manner. Unlike me, I made a mess. Qing Zifeng said, I'm afraid father and mother won't be satisfied with this. Why don't we hold on for a few more days? They'll get better slowly. Mother usually does all this, so it's not a big deal. I'll arrange 2 people for you tomorrow. With their help, it should be much easier. Xuexi, you're the eldest young mistress of the Qing family. Tangguo is right about one thing. If you don't learn to manage these things and the power of the family falls into her hands, you'll be the laughing stock of others in the future. Xiao Xuexi sighed. I'm afraid of making a mess. You have to learn these things slowly. Since father is willing to let you manage the house, it means that he still likes you. If you can perform better, he will be even more satisfied with you. Alright, I'll try again. Xiao Xuexi was too tired and fell asleep after a while. On the other side, Qing Zixiao was in the study, listening to his confidant's words with a silent expression. Eldest young madam looked at the account books and list of names for the whole day. Second young madam basked in the sun for most of the day in the courtyard and ate 3 fruit platters. They didn't meet. Qing Zixiao did not dare to believe it. Logically speaking, Tangguo should have gone over to mock and ridicule them. That night, Qing Zixiao still slept in the same place. Looking at that position, he felt his back ache. Chapter 54:32. On the day of her return, Qing Zixiao had already prepared a gift. Early in the morning, he took Tangguo back to the family Tang. Mrs. Tang held her hand worriedly. I heard someone say that you cut your wrist? I just couldn't figure it out that day. As Tangguo spoke, Mrs. Tang had already rolled up her sleeve. Sure enough, when she saw the bandaged wrist, her eyes reddened. What can't you figure out? Actually, Qing Zixiao isn't bad except for his family background. He came over to apologize that day. He was very sincere. No matter how sincere he is, what he did is inhumane, Tangguo retorted. Father, mother, can I divorce him? Isn't it possible to divorce nowadays? I want to divorce him. You know that I don't like him at all. Divorce. Mr. Tang frowned. Don't be like those foreigners. If word gets out that you want to divorce after just a few days of marriage, wouldn't it be a joke? Qing Zixiao came over to apologize that day. I think he's a good person. I promise he'll treat you well. Besides that, Qing Zifeng is usually cold. He might not have liked you. He's worse than Qing Zixiao. Tangwa didn't know what Qing Zixiao had promised to the family Tang that day, but it was obvious that the family Tang couple wouldn't let her get a divorce. That's right. If you get a divorce, what will you do in the future? Do you think we can learn the customs of those foreign devils? Since a woman is married, she should be devoted to her husband and live her life dutifully. The Qing family isn't bad. Qing Zixiao isn't bad either. He's a good home. Seeing their attitude, Tangwa didn't want to talk about it anymore. She then expressed that she wouldn't divorce and that she had only said it in a fit of anger. Only then did the two become more amiable. Tangwa wasn't interested in anything else. She just wanted to deal with it and go home. After all, this wasn't her home anymore. Back then, the original owner must have felt that this wasn't her home anymore. It was better to go back to the Qing family. At least she could bully Qing Zixiao and vent her anger. It was better than staying here. System, special fetish. On the way back, Qing Zixiao saw that Tangwa didn't look too happy, so he asked, "What exactly did you say to my parents? They actually said that you're very good? Tell me not to think about the divorce." Qing Zixiao suddenly understood. So it was about this matter. It seemed that she really didn't like him or even hated him. That day when he came over to apologize, he had expressed his sincerity to appease the family Tang family. Of course, that was not all. He had also given in to the Qing family's business. This was what the family Tang couple felt was the most sincere. Qing Zixiao didn't reply. This matter wasn't easy to say. If things went wrong, things would get out of hand. Tangwa was just saying it symbolically. Even if we can't divorce, you can only sleep on the floor every night without my consent. Qing Zixiao looked disappointed, but in reality he didn't care at all. The only bad thing about sleeping on the floor was that it would cause backache. Everything else was pretty good. I can wait. Qing Zixiao's "I can wait" was not meant for Tangwa but for Qiao Xueshi. Of course, he knew that waiting was impossible. He just wanted to express his thoughts. He had been holding it in for too long. Since he was young, he would pretend that he didn't like and wasn't interested in Qing Zifeng's things. He could only have them if Qing Zifeng didn't want them. Because this was the only way he could receive better treatment. He didn't expect that they would fall in love with the same person. Tangwa couldn't be bothered to care about Qing Zixiao's bad experiences. She closed her eyes and rested. Qing Zixiao didn't have any intention to speak. He let the rickshaw drive them in the direction of the Qing family. After the rickshaw drove for a short distance, a young man wearing a fisherman's hat walked out of the alley. He took off his hat. Who else could it be but Yan Qing? He kept looking in the direction that Tangwa disappeared. His subordinates beside him were puzzled. "Boss, what are you looking at? Did you hear that just now? That Qing Zixiao, the second young master of the Qing family, is still sleeping on the floor." "We heard it. But does that have anything to do with boss?" Yan Qing paused. "That's right. What was he happy about? It had nothing to do with him. Go, go, go. Let's go back and weed. That way we can charge more money." Chapter 54:33. When Tangwa returned home, she bumped into Qiao Xueshi, who had just returned home. Compared to Tangwa and Qing Zixiao, who were sitting in separate rickshaws, Qiao Xueshi and Qing Zifeng were sitting in the same rickshaw. Their fingers were intertwined and it was obvious that they were very loving. This scene caused Qing Zixiao's eyes to sting. He hurriedly shifted his gaze to Tangwa, afraid that he would reveal his uncontrollable feelings towards Qiao Xueshi if he made a mistake. However, he really liked Qiao Xueshi. This kind of love reached its peak after Qiao Xueshi became his sister-in-law and he would never be able to have her again. It was as if he couldn't control it at all. He saw Tangwa sitting in the rickshaw and hadn't gotten off in time. He quickly reached out his hand for her to get off. He revealed a loving expression as if Tangwa was the one he loved deeply in his heart. At this moment he actually showed his love for Qiao Xueshi. However, other than himself and Tangwa, no one knew the truth. Qing Zixiao smiled at Tangwa. Even this smile was for Qiao Xueshi. Ever since they were young, as long as his elder brother liked it, unless the other party was willing to give it up, he couldn't get it. He couldn't get Qiao Xueshi. He didn't even have the right to express his feelings. The moment he saw Tangwa, he seemed to have found a good solution. The more he missed Qiao Xueshi, the more he showed his love. It seemed as if he was infatuated with Tanguo. He believed that any woman who met such an infatuated person would find it hard to resist. How many people would be able to guess the truth behind this? In the original plot, Qing Zixiao had fooled everyone. The original owner was no exception. When she died, she was thinking that the world seemed to be biased against her. She was born into a good family, but she didn't even have the right to divorce. She was sent to the wrong bridal chamber and her family compromised because of business. This was the first time she realized that she wasn't more important than her family's interests. Her fiancé was infatuated with someone else. To her, this was something she had slowly accepted. Especially when she found out that Qing Zifeng was not as good as she had imagined. And what happened to Qiao Xueshi later made her feel somewhat fortunate. Just as she was about to accept Qing Zixiao, she found out that this person had been scheming from the beginning, using her as a tool. This time she couldn't help but be angry. However, there was nothing she could do. Qing Zixiao was a calculative person. He had been scheming for many years and had protected Qiao Xueshi very well. How could he let her get hurt? Plotting against her, framing her, and even bribing the bandits to send her far away. She was a woman who had left her home in this chaotic world. How could she have a good life? At best he would be bullied. At worst he would lose his life. Qing Zixiao was too ruthless. He didn't give her a way out at all. Watch your step. Qing Zixiao found that Tanguo was in a daze, so he gently reminded her and helped her up. Of course he was immediately pushed away by Tanguo. Tanguo steadily walked through the door without looking back. She seemed to be in a bad mood. Qing Zixiao didn't care. He only looked at Qing Zifeng and Qiao Xueshi, whose fingers were intertwined. Big brother, big sister-in-law, I'll go in first. Xiaoguo is in a bad mood. There you go. Just coax her and she'll be fine. Qing Zifeng said generously. Qiao Xueshi also said, second brother, you don't have to worry about us. Just go. Hearing the word second brother, and seeing the two of them being so affectionate, Qing Zixiao couldn't stand it and quickly chased after them. Chapter 5434. Second brother really likes Xiaoguo. Qiao Xueshi said. Qing Zifeng led her through the door. That's right, I didn't expect him to like my younger sister-in-law. He probably knows that I don't have any feelings for my younger sister-in-law. Previously we almost eloped. He saw that our love is stronger than gold, so he made that decision. It's the best of both worlds. But Xiaoguo doesn't seem very willing. She must be very resentful about this. Qiao Xueshi said hesitantly. Anyone who was sent to the wrong bridal chamber for no reason would not be able to accept it. Tanguo's ability to accept things had already exceeded her understanding. Anyway, if she was in her position, she would not be able to accept it. That time when Qing Zixiao came to ask for her hand in marriage, she knew that she could not refuse and could only agree. In fact, she was already prepared to wait for the wedding night to end her own life. When she thought about how Tanguo had also done something like this, she felt more and more uncomfortable. She and Qing Zifeng clearly liked each other, but she still could not let go of this matter. She always felt that she owed him. Xueshi, what nonsense are you thinking about again? Are you still thinking about the wrong bridal chamber? I still feel that I'm in the wrong. Silly girl, this matter is not your fault. It's because Zixiao likes her too much that he had no choice but to do such a thing. You see, Zixiao treats her so well. If she really married me, I would not be able to be like Zixiao and she would not be happy. Now that she is with Zixiao, as long as she slowly lets go of this matter, she will definitely be happy. Zixiao went through so much to marry her. He will definitely not let her down. You can rest assured. Qiao Xueshi was comforted. She saw how careful Qing Zixiao was just now. His eyes were filled with love and her heart seemed to feel a little better. Ah, right, I still have to continue with the list today. Qiao Xueshi remembered her housekeeper task and hurriedly threw Qing Zifeng's hand away. She lifted her skirt and quickly ran in. Thinking about the list gave her a headache. The housekeeper was really troublesome. These few days the servants of the Qing family gathered together to discuss Qing Zixiao. Most of the time second young master would buy something rare for second young mistress Hua. Whatever second young mistress Hua liked, he would go and find it. Second young mistress Hua liked to admire the flowers and bask in the sun in the courtyard, so he asked someone to make a special chair and bought many precious flowers and plants to move in. The courtyard was like a small garden which made the entire Qing family envious. Especially for Tanguo's favorite food, Qing Zixiao would remind the kitchen every day that there would always be 1 or 2 dishes on the table that she liked. In everyone's opinion, Qing Zixiao was truly in love with Tangguo. However, only 2 people knew the truth. Tangguo was not moved by this, and Qing Zixiao's behavior did not deceive himself. When he went to pick out something good, he would indeed choose a gift according to Tangguo's preferences and give it to her. However, not only had he chosen one, he had also carefully selected another gift that could never be given out. He had stored it in another place. He bought some precious flowers and plants for Tangguo. These flowers and plants were all Qiao Xuexi's favorites. Just like before, he would instruct the kitchen to prepare 3 dishes. Perhaps 1 or 2 of them would be Tangguo's favorites, and the other would be Qiao Xuexi's favorites. However, these were just his instructions. Very few people paid attention to what Qiao Xuexi liked to eat. However, he paid attention. From the day he fell in love with Qiao Xuexi, he had slowly figured out what she liked and liked. Chapter 54:35. Every time Qiao Xuexi saw something she liked at the dining table, she didn't find it strange. After all, there were many dishes on the Qing family's dining table, so it was normal for her to like them. At the dining table, Qing Zixiao would always use the serving chopsticks to pick up delicious food for Tangguo and let her eat more. His meticulous care made Qiao Xuexi a little envious. She thought that if Qing Zixiao could always treat Tangguo like this, she would be happy for the rest of her life, right? As long as Tangguo could be happy for the rest of her life, the guilt in her heart would lessen a little. When Tangguo was unhappy for a day, she would feel that there were thorns everywhere. It was very uncomfortable, and she would always remember that this was not the place she should be sitting. Xuexi, the Zhang family's banquet is in 2 days. Is everything ready? At this moment, Madame Qing asked. She wasn't making things difficult for Qiao Xuexi, but she suddenly remembered this matter. She couldn't just leave things to Qiao Xuexi. She had to control the overall situation to prevent any problems. Recently, Qiao Xuexi had been stumbling, but there hadn't been any trouble for the time being. The Zhang family's banquet should be the first test for Qiao Xuexi. Mother, it's almost ready. Madame Qing secretly glanced at Tangguo. Seeing that she was eating slowly and had no intention of interrupting, she felt a little disappointed. She still felt that it was more reliable to leave the housekeeping to Tangguo. Unfortunately, Tangguo didn't have any intention of seizing power. It's almost time. Have you prepared the clothes and accessories for the banquet? Madame Qing continued to ask. Why haven't you asked someone to try it on? So close. If it doesn't fit, we can ask the tailor to change it. Mother, I'll ask someone later. Qiao Xuexi hurriedly said. The tailor came over to measure it before. There shouldn't be a problem. Madame Qing was a little unhappy. If there was no problem, then there was no problem. For custom-made clothes like this, they had to get the finished product at least 3 to 5 days in advance. Only then would there be ample time and it wouldn't be easy to make mistakes. You mean you haven't seen the finished product yet? Madame Cheng's voice became stern, and her gaze startled Qiao Xuexi. At this time Qing Zifeng said, Mother, I'll go with Xuexi to take a look later. The tailor shop knows our Qing family, so there shouldn't be any problems. The way Qing Zifeng protected Qiao Xuexi made Madame Qing frown. She wasn't trying to nitpick, but as the eldest young mistress of the Qing family, dealing with such matters was basic. If Tangguo was the housekeeper, she would not have asked so many questions. Qiao Xuexi only wanted to make her son happy and give birth to a chubby grandson in the future. Her son had already chosen her and she couldn't stop it. She might as well spend more effort on her grandchildren. Xiaoguo, let's go together later. We can try on the new clothes and see if they fit. Qing Zixiao looked at Tangguo affectionately. His purpose of going with them was not to let Tangguo try on the clothes in advance, but because he was afraid that there would be trouble there and wanted to see if he could help solve the problem. How could Tangguo do as he wished? When the tailor is done, it will naturally be sent to the house. The tailor shop should have taken on a lot of work and it's crowded. If it's not done well, it will be a wasted trip. Tangguo wiped her mouth. Today, I'm going to the temple to burn incense and ask for a protective talisman for father and mother. Qing Zixiao frowned. Tangguo looked at him and said casually, You do your thing. If you want to try on the clothes in advance, you can go by yourself. Of course, I have to accompany you to burn incense. I don't feel at ease if you go alone. Chapter 54:36. Tangguo lowered her head and smiled deeply. Up to you. When the Qing couple heard that Tangwa wanted to ask for a peace talisman for them, they felt comforted. They could tell that she had not let go of what happened before. Other than her sarcastic words to Qing Zixiao, everything else was fine. They just had to support her. After she married into their family, the Qing and Tang families had come to an agreement. Everything was settled. If Tangwa could take care of it, it would be even better. Madame Qing thought of old Master Cheng's words and fell into deep thought. Old Master Qing said that Qiao Xueshi was the eldest young mistress of the Qing family and could not ignore everything. If Tangwa could take care of Qiao Xueshi and teach her those methods, it would be even better. Now the Qing family had to support Tangwa. They hoped that she would remember their kindness and teach Qiao Xueshi well in the future. Madame Qing nodded secretly. Old Master was right. That should be the case. This time they took a carriage. The Qing family had cars, but the road to the temple was narrow and they could not drive to the temple. They had to take a small path. The Qing family's cars were usually used by the three of them when they were doing things. For shorter journeys they would take a rickshaw. It was more convenient. This time Tangwa asked for a complete peace talisman. She carefully looked at the peace talisman in her hand. There were some strange things in it and there were some drawings on it. This thing was useless. It was just a comfort talisman. The peace talismans were all placed in a small box. When Qing Zixiao saw her coming out, he quickly went up to her. Done. Done. Tangwa took out a box from the servant's hand and casually threw it to Qing Zixiao. When Qing Zixiao caught the box, he was a little surprised. When he opened the box, he saw a small triangular talisman. He did not know what was drawn on it, but he knew that it was the so-called peace talisman. He did not believe in these things, but when he received it for the first time, it made him feel a little strange. Don't think that I have feelings for you. I'm just returning the favor. The flowers in the courtyard have cost you. After saying that, Tangwa got into the carriage. When she saw the surprise in Qing Zixiao's eyes, she knew that this move was actually useful. This person had been neglected since he was young. In front of adults, he was obedient and respectful to his parents and brothers. He did not fight, nor did he seem to have any complaints. However, everyone had their own thoughts and expectations of everything. He looked forward to his parents' love, care, and attention. Someone cared about him. He shouldn't have been cared about too much, right? Therefore, when he received a mere safety talisman, he was so surprised, shocked, and even a little bit happy that he couldn't hide. Even if he still thought that he did not want the peace talisman, his heart. Qing Zixiao silently closed the box and looked up at Tangwa, but he couldn't see her figure. He was in the carriage. After Qing Zixiao sat down, he saw that she was already resting with her eyes closed, as if she didn't want to see him. Thank you. Tangwa didn't open her eyes and didn't respond. Qing Zixiao didn't care about this. Of course, he didn't throw away the peace talisman. It should be pitiful and hateful. Dear host, Yanqing is still the cutest, right? You know, if not for that guy, he would have been beaten. Chapter 54:37. The Qing couple took the safety talisman with a smile and told Tangwa that they would wear it. Qing Zixiao put the box in his study. What puzzled his henchman was that the box was placed among some of Qing Zixiao's collections. He asked subconsciously, "Did second young master get something good?" "I guess so," Qing Zixiao answered indifferently. The confidant knew that he shouldn't ask too much, so he didn't ask. "Eldest young madam hasn't returned yet?" Qing Zixiao thought of this. "Not yet. If there's news, let me know immediately." Yes. It was almost noon, but Qiao Xueshi and Qing Zifeng still hadn't returned. Madame Qing felt that something was wrong and sent someone to call Qing Zixiao to see what was going on. "Go and tell mother that I'll go right away." Qing Zixiao lowered his eyes, making it impossible to see the emotions in his eyes. Since he was young, he was like Madame Cheng's errand boy. If Qing Zifeng had anything to do, Qing Zixiao would do it. Who asked his background to be so unpresentable? And it was Madame Qing who gave him the dignity of a second young master. When Qing Zixiao arrived at the tailor shop, he realized that things weren't simple. The owner of the tailor shop was apologizing to Qing Zifeng, and Qiao Xueshi was so anxious that her eyes were red. When the two saw Qing Zixiao coming over, they seemed to see hope. "Big brother, sister-in-law, what's going on here?" "Mother asked me to ask." Qing Zifeng shook his head. "The clothes we need aren't ready yet. We won't be able to finish in 2 days. I told them last month." They didn't keep their word, Xiao Shueshi said angrily. They just came over. They just chose the fabric and haven't started work yet. This tailor shop was old and had a strong background. It wasn't an ordinary tailor shop. All the influential families in Yu City liked to come to this tailor shop to make clothes. Therefore even the Qing family couldn't threaten them. The shopkeeper said apologetically, "Eldest young madam didn't say that it was urgent. She only said that she would come this month and didn't set a date, so we thought that this order wasn't urgent. It's only the beginning of the month and there's still more than half of the month. There's still time to make a few sets of clothes. The other orders in the shop are all in a hurry and they even set a date. We definitely have to complete them by the set date. Initially we thought that after we finished the urgent order, there would still be 20 days left before we could work on the finer details of the clothes that the Qing family needed. I didn't expect that. If eldest young mistress had informed us of the time needed earlier, we would have finished it immediately on account of Master Qing and eldest young master." When Qing Zixiao heard this, how could he not know what was going on? There was no time to make new clothes in just 2 days. The boss of this shop wasn't from an ordinary family, so it wasn't good to offend him. The other party had even given him an excuse, so he could only suffer in silence. Qing Zifeng's expression turned ugly. "Since your shop has accepted this order, shouldn't you do it in order whether it's urgent or not? These clothes will be used in 2 days. Now that you haven't touched a single needle, what do you want us to do?" The boss had a bitter look on his face. "Young Master Qing, it's not that I don't want to, but this is the rule of the shop. Those who didn't have a fixed time weren't in a hurry. If they were in a hurry, who wouldn't mention a time limit? Besides, it's written in black and white on our deposit slip. Eldest young master, you're really making things difficult for me." Qing Zifeng suppressed his anger and felt very uncomfortable, but he didn't know how to refute. "Zixiao, you handle this matter." At the critical moment, Qing Zifeng remembered that Qing Zixiao was here. His eyes lit up and he immediately pulled him out. Chapter 5438. Big brother, Boss Yun is right on this matter. It's true that our Qing family didn't give an accurate date. Qing Zixiao's first sentence made Qing Zifeng even angrier. As the young master of the Qing family, of course he couldn't get angry because of this. Moreover, he knew Qing Zixiao a little. There must be something else. "Boss Yun, I want to return the order." "That shouldn't be a problem, right?" Boss Yun said with a smile. "Of course it's not a problem. Before work starts or after receiving the finished product, if the clothes have a big quality problem or don't fit at all, the order can be returned." "That's too bad. If young Madam Qing could give an accurate date, how could we have pushed the Qing family's order to the back?" "Of course I know that. Our Qing family has always worked with Boss Yun. Boss Yun isn't that kind of person." Qing Zixiao smiled. Boss Yun returned the deposit with an apologetic expression. It seemed that everything was fine. This scene infuriated Qing Zifeng, but he still restrained himself. Far away from the tailor's shop, Qing Zifeng saw that there was no one around and asked in a bad tone, "Zixiao, why are you praising him? Yun Hongxing did it on purpose." So few people in Yu City attended the Zhang family's banquet? How many people want to custom-make clothes from him? He deliberately pushed our Yun family's order to the back. It's obvious that he's deliberately causing trouble. In my opinion, there might be something we've overlooked. "Don't worry, big brother. Of course I know Yun Hongxing did it on purpose. He's making a fool of us," Qing Zixiao said calmly. "There's no way to know the reason for the time being. I've already arranged for someone to find out. Also, Yun Hongxing dared to mess with our Qing family. I have to teach him a lesson." Qing Zifeng's anger disappeared and he asked with interest, "Oh, you've already thought about what to do?" "Yes, big brother. This time I want to leave a deep impression on him so that he'll be more careful when he sees our Qing family in the future." He didn't believe that this matter was caused by the family behind Yun Hongxing. Qing Zixiao's guess was right. After they left, the shop assistant in Yun Hongxing's shop asked him if this would offend the Qing family. "It should be fine. This is a very small matter," Yun Hongxing said hesitantly. Yun Hongxing said hesitantly, "You have to keep an eye on Qiao Lian in the future. Don't let her do anything reckless. The Qing family is the Qing family after all. There's no date on the order. Can you arrange for 2 people to go over and ask?" In reality, Yun Hongxing didn't do it on purpose to offend the Qing family. He only said that to avoid responsibility and push the blame to Qiao Xueshi for not being careful enough. His explanation did make sense. After all, there was no specific date on the order. Father, what are you saying about me again? What's wrong with me? What do you mean by offending the Yun family? Yun Qiaolian skipped over to Yun Hongxing. Oh, I know. The Qing family is here. You know that the Qing clan is here? You clearly knew that the Qing family would need clothes in the next few days, so why did you hide the Qing family's list at the back? Yun Qiaolian curled her lips. There's a specific date on it. Didn't you say before that there's no need to rush if there's no date? Is there anything wrong with hiding it at the back? As I said before, it depends on what kind of guest the other party is. If it's a big family like the Qing family, send someone over to ask. Chapter 5439. The Qing family's orders have always been dated. In the past, they didn't arrange for someone to go over and ask about it. Without a date, they definitely aren't in a hurry. Yun Qiaolian quibbled, so they're still in a hurry. It's just that the bricklayer's daughter, eldest young mistress, can't take it anymore. It's such an important matter, yet they can't even give us an exact date. It's making things difficult for us. Yun Hongxing felt that something was wrong. His face turned serious. You're still thinking about Qing Zifeng? Oh, of course not. I don't have the hobby of being a concubine. I just think that Qiao Xueshi's luck is too good. Even if she didn't send the wrong bridal chamber, she would still be able to become the Qing family's young mistress. Why am I not so lucky? In the end, I even became the Qing family's eldest young mistress. There aren't many men in Fish City who are as scholarly and cultured as Qing Zifeng. Yun Hongxing looked displeased. This is the only time. We've offended the Qing family this time. There won't be a next time. Father, don't be angry. Actually, it's really that Qiao Xueshi's fault. If she was capable, would she have made such a mess? Yun Hongxing also felt that this was the case. When Madame Qing found out about the whole story, her expression turned ugly and she couldn't help but reprimand Qiao Xueshi. Mother, I think Yun Hongxing is doing this on purpose. Since he knows it's our Qing family's deal, why would he put it aside? They are the most well-informed. How could they not know about the Zhang family's banquet? At the mention of this matter, Qing Zifeng was still a little angry, even though he knew that Qing Zixiao would definitely find a way to get back at him. If it weren't for the Yun family behind Yun Hongxing, he wouldn't have left so easily today. In the end, it was Xueshi's mistake. Old Master Qing was very dissatisfied with this matter. It was just a simple custom-made clothes, but it could cause so much trouble. It couldn't be of great use. But Qiao Xueshi was his eldest daughter-in-law. If she didn't care about the family, it would be a joke. The son he valued was Qing Zifeng, so Qiao Xueshi naturally had to be in charge of the family. Qiao Xueshi stood by the side, her heart filled with unspeakable bitterness. She was not cut out for this. How could she have known that even a small custom-made dress would require so much attention? There were a few times when she wanted to say that this family should be managed by Tanggua, but she couldn't bring herself to do so. Madame Qing and Old Master Cheng's gazes made her not dare to speak. Father, Mother, now that the order has been returned, we should consider what to wear for the Zhang family's banquet. We only have 2 days left. Qing Zixiao looked at Qiao Xueshi's red eyes and suddenly lowered her head. That aggrieved look made him feel very uncomfortable. This was just a small matter. Was there a need to keep criticizing her? He couldn't say anything nice directly, so he could only change the topic. Sure enough, everyone was lured here. Madame Cheng's gaze fell on Qiao Xueshi again. Seeing her fearful expression, she shook her head and finally looked at Tanggua. Tanggua stood in the corner without saying a word. Qing Zixiao might have thought that she would hit him when he was down, but now that he understood her, she didn't seem to care about these things and wasn't worried at all that she would say something unfavorable to Qiao Xueshi. However, Mrs. Cheng's intention was obvious. She wanted to ask Tanggua how to solve this problem. Qing Zixiao was a little anxious. If she stood out at this time, it would be even more disadvantageous to Qiao Xueshi. Just as Mrs. Qing was about to ask Tanggua, Qing Zixiao spoke first. Mother, actually, on the way back I had an idea. Chapter 5440. Zixiao has an idea? Tell me. Madame Qing retracted her gaze from Tanggua and looked at Qing Zixiao. Qing Zixiao smiled and said, "Foreign goods are popular now. Why don't our family follow the trend and go to places that sell foreign goods? Father and big brother both know that many people wear foreign goods at banquets now. If our family dresses like that, no one will find it strange and we can experience different clothes. Mother, if you're worried, I'll get someone to send the dress over to try first. If it's too big or too small, just get the tailor to change it. Madam Ching and Old Master Ching looked at each other. Old Master Ching saw that there was still some anticipation in Madam Cheng's eyes and said, "You can try it first." Things went smoothly after that, and the Ching family decided to wear foreign goods. Ching Zixiao arranged for people to buy a certain kind of cloth in large quantities and even asked the seller to keep it a secret. He bought almost all the cloth in Yu City and the nearby cities. Looks like he's going to target Yun Hongxing. This person is very vengeful. Yun Hongxing made Qiao Xueshi suffer, so he'll definitely take revenge. Tang Gui tried on the dress for the banquet and looked at herself in the mirror. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. He used his private money. Ching Zixiao secretly has a business, but he doesn't dare to be so brazen now. So after taking out this money, his belt is still a bit tight. I'll go out in the afternoon. System, he must be going out to deliver the news. In the afternoon of the same day, Tang Gui went out shopping with two little maidservants. Sitting in the rickshaw, she was thinking about what to do. When she passed by the cinema, she saw Yan Qing. Yan Qing also saw her and smiled at her. Master, let's stop here. After getting off the rickshaw, Tang Gui walked into the cinema. When she passed by Yan Qing, her voice brushed past his ear. Yan Qing looked at Tang Gui's back and was a little surprised. Talk business? She wanted to talk business with him? Could it be that after being sent to the wrong bridal room, she finally couldn't take it anymore and wanted to ask for help to kill the Qing family's second young master? Yan Qing rubbed his head. He didn't do killing business. He only did it out of conscience. It was like paying tolls when people passed by. Boss, where are you going? Watch the movie. You guys play by yourselves. The lackeys did not understand. Watch a movie? Since when was boss interested in movies? Isn't it quite expensive to watch that thing? After buying the ticket and entering, Yan Qing soon found his way to Tang Gui's side. He sat down, looked around and asked in a low voice, "You want to talk business with me?" Yes. The theater was dark and there was still the sound of people talking. What are you doing? To be honest, I don't do things like killing people. If you don't like someone, I can take on the job of beating them up. Let's make it clear first, I can lie in bed for 10 days to half a month, but I don't want to die. Tang Gui couldn't help but laugh. Are you a bandit? You speak so fiercely and want to hit people for no reason. I don't have that kind of request. What's that? Yan Qing thought, isn't he just a bandit? Although he was a principled bandit, he was still a bandit. Also, how was he fierce? He didn't want to kill people. Help me send a message. Remember, Tang Gui whispered. Go to Yun's tailor shop in front of Yun Hongxing. You can do this. Yan Qing was confused and didn't quite understand what she meant. By the time he remembered all the words, something was stuffed into his hand. By the time he reacted, Tang Gui had already left. Chapter 54-41. He hurriedly chased after her, but he was one step too late. Tang Gui was already sitting in the rickshaw and the driver was running very fast. The streets were full of people and there was also a group of underlings around him who stopped him to ask if the movie was good, so he couldn't chase after her. Boss, what's this? A sharp-eyed underling saw the money bag in his hand and reached out to touch it. It's so colorful and pretty. Yan Qing slapped his underling's hand away. Let's go back. Have you finished weeding? No, we've already done it. We're just waiting for the fat sheep to cross the road. Go take a look again. Move some flat stones to press on the road or it will collapse easily. The next day, Yan Qing changed his appearance slightly and went to see Yun Hongxing. When he saw Yun Hongxing, he asked him what kind of cloth he wanted to buy and even complained to him. He came from a neighboring county and didn't know who had bought all the cloth in the county, so he had no choice but to come here. But when he came here, he found that many cloth shops had also been bought, so he could only try them one by one. I see. Yun Hongxing gave Yan Qing 2 bolts of cloth. I don't have much stock left, so I haven't heard of this. After sending Yan Qing off, Yun Hongxing felt that things were strange, but he didn't think too much about it. Until the next day, another strange person came up and asked him for the same cloth to make clothes. It was said that this was a teacher from a certain school who was making uniforms for the students, so they had to use the same cloth. At this time Yun Hongxing still felt that this was a big order. He thought that even if Yu City and Lin County didn't have it, he could order it at the textile factory. Or maybe he could go further to buy it. But when he heard that the other party's time was a little short, he couldn't take it anymore. At this point he still felt that this was a big deal. Until this person suggested signing another contract. If they couldn't get what they needed by the deadline, Yun Hongxing would have to pay 10 times the penalty. The deposit that this person took out was half of the total price. 10 times the penalty poured a bucket of cold water on Yun Hongxing, and he instantly sobered up. This was a trap. Someone wanted to mess with him. Counting the people he had offended recently, it was only the Qing family. Yun Hongxing clenched his teeth, his hands trembling. If it was really the Qing clan, it seemed like they really wanted to kill him. Last time he did make a little mistake, but at the same time, there was no date on the other party's list. If this list was pushed back, no one would be able to find fault. He didn't expect the Qing family to hate him so much. After thinking it through, Yun Hongxing decisively expressed that he couldn't accept this job and asked the other party to find another capable person. When Qing Zixiao arranged for this person, his expression immediately changed. Then he even made a concession. No matter what, Yun Hongxing would not accept it. In the end, this person could only return in disappointment and tell Qing Zixiao everything that had happened here. Yun Hongxing wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Was it a coincidence that the person had warned him yesterday, or was it intentional? If no one reminded him of this, he would probably go bankrupt. He's not taking the attack? Yes, Yun Hongxing was shocked when he heard that it was 10 times the penalty. Even though I later changed it to 2 times the penalty, he was still unwilling. Qing Zixiao's expression was very ugly. According to his understanding of Yun Hongxing, the other party should not have missed such a big deal. He didn't know what went wrong. This time he took out his private stash to buy cloth and spent a lot of money. It was not easy to earn this money. Previously he was expecting a 90% chance of success. When the time came, he would definitely make a lot of money and teach Yun Hongxing a lesson. Now he was the one who had fallen into this trap. Chapter 54-42. That day Tangua noticed that Qing Zixiao's complexion wasn't good. That night, when Qing Zixiao was sleeping on the floor, Tangua asked with concern, "You don't look well. Are you sick or tired?" "System, host, you're too fake. Don't you know what's wrong with him? That cloth cost a lot of money, enough for Qing Zixiao to vomit blood for a while. You actually asked him if he was sick?" Qing Zixiao took a deep breath. "I'm fine. Go to sleep." Qing Zixiao tried to make his tone calm. At this time Tangua's voice sounded again. "Call the doctor tomorrow and check on you. Don't worry." Qing Zixiao didn't refuse this time. He hugged the blanket and opened his eyes. He suddenly had a strange feeling. Ever since he was young, his body had always been good. However, no matter how good a person's body was, it was impossible to live a life without illness. When he was young, as long as he wasn't too sick to support himself, he would pretend that nothing was wrong and force his way through. No one asked him if he was sick because of his complexion. As long as he said that he was fine, no one would ask any more questions. This was the first time someone said to call the doctor tomorrow and check on him. Don't worry. He had clearly lost a lot of money. That money was enough for him to open another shop in another place. At this time he actually felt some comfort. The next day Tangua really did call the doctor to check on Qing Zixiao's body. Qing Zixiao didn't resist. He let the doctor examine him carefully. In the end, the doctor prescribed him some medicine to lower his internal heat and left. "I told you I wasn't sick. You didn't believe me," Qing Zixiao said in a relaxed tone. Tangua glanced at him. "I just don't want to be known as a jinx. If my husband dies after being married for less than 2 months, this reputation will never be washed away." Qing Zixiao knew that she was stubborn and laughed at her words. He was so strong. How could he die after being married for less than 2 months? She was probably afraid that there was something wrong with his body and called the doctor to check on him in case it became a serious problem. She was concerned about him, right? It was just that she was still very resentful about that matter, so she said those harsh words to him. Qing Zixiao's mood was a little complicated. Unknowingly, his attitude towards Tangua had changed a little, but he didn't realize it himself. That night, Qing Zixiao also noticed that there was a small couch on the floor where he slept. Lu Shuang was making the bed. When she saw him, she hurriedly said, "Second young mistress said that the floor is damp and it's easy to get sick." Qing Zixiao stared at the couch for a long time. This couch could be used to sleep at night, and when the blanket was tucked away during the day, it looked like a place to rest. Got it. He went to wash up happily. When he came back, he wanted to say a few words to Tangua, but he found that her bed curtain had been pulled down. She might have fallen asleep. He laid down on the small couch and found that it was indeed much more comfortable than the floor. He slept exceptionally well that night. System: the more comfortable you are today, the more painful it will be in the future. The Zhang family's banquet passed smoothly, and the Qing family returned to normal. Qiao Xueshi had been having a hard time recently. At the Zhang family's banquet, she kept getting into trouble. If Madame Qing wasn't by her side, she wouldn't have been able to stand in that place and eat. That place didn't suit her at all. She could feel that Madame Qing was a little dissatisfied with her recently. Every day she urged her to learn how to manage a household. Every day she would test her results, making her miserable. Every time she wanted to complain to Qing Zifeng would indeed comfort her. However, he would also tell her that this was what the eldest young mistress of the Qing family should do. Unknowingly, they had been married for 2 months. From being newlyweds to being used to it, Qing Zifeng no longer had much interest in staying at home and spending every day with Qiao Xueshi. Qiao Xueshi was really busy learning this and that, so she didn't notice the change in Qing Zifeng. Once again, something big happened to the Qing family. The Qing family's goods were charged a toll on the road. In this day and age, it was normal for bandits to charge tolls when they occupied the mountains. However, it was unusual for the Qing family to be charged a toll. As expected, this incident fell on Qing Zixiao again. Chapter 54-43. Where are you going? Tangua saw Qing Zixiao rushing out with an odd expression. Of course, she knew what was going on. She was just going through the formalities to ask. Qing Zixiao turned around. In the past month, our Qing family's goods have been intercepted 3 times and we've been charged 3 times. I'm going to find out who did it. Tangua was well aware of this. Although she didn't take the initiative to investigate Yanqing, the system had already nagged her about what Yanqing did. Is this easy to solve? Tangua asked again, looking a little worried. Qing Zixiao hurriedly said, "It's not a big deal. There are probably a few ignorant people in the nearby mountains. Let's talk about it first. If we can't talk, we can send some things to the police station and someone will help us." I'm leaving. This matter was still a little urgent and he didn't want to delay. He added, "Don't worry, it's fine. System: do you think the great host is worried about you? She might even want to hear that you were robbed and beaten up by bandits. She's asking so many questions because she wants to know where you're going. If the situation is serious, she might even tip someone off." Not long after Qing Zixiao left, something happened on Qiao Xueshi's side. In fact, ever since she took over the family business, many things had happened. However, Tangua had been hiding in a corner and Madame Qing didn't have an excuse to let her take over the family business. Tangua now only went out to eat and shop. She basically didn't go out of the house. She didn't care much about the Qing family's affairs, which gave the 2 elders a headache. However, this time the mistake was a little serious. Madame Qing sent someone to invite her over. When she went over, she saw Qiao Xueshi standing at the side with reddened eyes, looking like a wronged daughter-in-law. It was also because Madame Qing liked Qiao Xueshi and was willing to give her a chance. If it was someone else she didn't like, she wouldn't have a good life. "Mother, what's going on?" Tangua asked in confusion. She really didn't pay attention to the Qing family's internal affairs. Madame Qing sighed, then waved to Tangua. When she walked up to her, she held her hand again. "Actually, it's not a big deal, but if we don't deal with it properly, it will be a big deal over time." Tangua asked curiously, "Then what happened?" Madame Qing handed a ledger to Tangua. "Take a look at it and compare it with the Qing family's expenses for the past 6 months. Tangua glanced at Qiao Xueshi and lowered her head to flip through the account book. Madame Qing looked at Qiao Xueshi and shook her head. It was good to be honest, but there were also bad things about being honest. The daughter-in-law of the Qing family was too honest and couldn't support the family. Tangua first skimmed through the few months before she married into the Qing family, leaving aside the month of the wedding, and then compared the 2 months after that. There wasn't much of a difference in the expenditure of human relations. The strangest thing was the internal expenditure of the Qing family. Just in terms of food and drink, it was 5 times more than before. It was impossible for 2 more people to increase the expenses by 5 times in terms of food and clothing. It was obvious that there was a problem somewhere in the organization. Of course, it was impossible for Qiao Xueshi. She was timid and careful in everything she did. It was impossible for her to embezzle the Qing family's money. It could only be said that the subordinates thought Qiao Xueshi was easy to bully and purposely gave her a high price. There were other miscellaneous expenses. As long as it was the internal expenditure of the Qing family, it was several times more. Chapter 54-44. When Madame Cheng saw Tang Guo's expression, she knew that she understood. Xiaoguo, what do you think about this? If no one takes care of this family, we might have 10 times the expenses next month. Madame Cheng's words actually made sense. If the higher-ups didn't take care of it, the people below would be even more arrogant. Tang Guo returned the account book. Mother, I'm just the second young mistress of the Qing family. I can't take care of this family. Since mother can see the problem, why don't you teach Qiao Xueshi? Madame Qing didn't mind Tang Guo calling Qiao Xueshi by her name. She knew that this matter was a hurdle in her heart, so she planned to pretend to be sick. Thus, she rubbed her head and looked very uncomfortable. Mother also wants to teach Xueshi, but unfortunately I'm not strong enough. Since last year my body has been deteriorating day by day. Mother knows that you're capable. The future of the Qing family depends on you and Xueshi. At this point, if Tang Guo still didn't do something, it would be unreasonable. She knew what Madame Qing was thinking. She wanted her to teach Qiao Xueshi. Otherwise, why would she be so polite to her these few months? To put it bluntly, the 2 elders of the Qing family wanted her to be like Qing Zixiao. They wanted to train her to be a tool for the Qing family. If they were obedient and worked hard, the ones who would benefit in the end would be Qing Zifeng and Qiao Xueshi. However, if she interfered, the 2 of them would definitely not be the ones who would benefit. Speaking of which, the Qing family was quite rich. She had already thought of who the Qing family's assets would be given to in the future. It was the Qing family's blessing to arrange this path. Since mother is not feeling well, then I'll help Qiao Xueshi. She'll take care of the household. I'll assist her. Madame Qing immediately beamed with joy. She pulled Tang Guo aside and praised her non-stop. All kinds of good words fell on her. She wasn't afraid that Qiao Xueshi would be angry. She watched Qiao Xueshi grow up and knew her very well. Even if Tang Guo were to take care of the household, Qiao Xueshi would only feel relieved. She wouldn't be angry or jealous at all. As expected, Qiao Xueshi smiled happily and said that she would listen to Tang Guo's opinion. Tang Guo looked at Qiao Xueshi from head to toe. At this time, Qiao Xueshi still didn't know that because of the impact of the new ideology, various slogans about free love, true love, and women with new ideology had already started to spread in Qing Zifeng's circle. They want to get rid of their old ideas and pursue true love enthusiastically so that they will not be in vain for once in this world. Qing Zifeng had no intention of betraying Qiao Xueshi for the time being because he had yet to meet the woman who had struck his soul. Of course, this was only a matter of time. Very soon, Qing Zifeng would meet her and be influenced by her new ideas, knowledge, and dreams. He would feel that such a woman was worth pursuing for his whole life. Tang Guo planned to train Qiao Xueshi well. She was like a blank piece of paper. If she didn't write something on it, it would be a waste of her work. Xiaoguo, now that you mention it, I understand. Qiao Xueshi was a little enlightened. So that's how it is. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have realized that there was so much knowledge in this. Now we need to do another thing. Find those people who deceived the Qing family and chase them out. Qiao Xueshi was a little hesitant. It's good to know one's mistakes and be able to do it. Isn't it a little too unreasonable to do this? The Qing family has always treated them well. If they can deceive us once, there will be a second time. Chapter 54-45. If we don't chase them out today, they'll follow suit tomorrow. Now we just need to catch a few serious offenders to warn the rest. Naturally, they won't dare to mess around anymore as they know that they'll lose their jobs. If you just casually criticize them, no one will take it seriously. Once disloyal, you won't use it for life. Then can't we just fine them for a few months to teach them a lesson? Qiao Xueshi asked naively. Tang Guo glanced at her indifferently. What they did isn't a small matter. If it's serious, we can send them to the police station and put them in jail for theft. If you only find them, not only will they not be grateful but they'll also resent you. They might not use the Qing family's money in the future, but they'll continue to cause trouble. They might even inadvertently provoke the other servants of the Qing family and form a small group among them. When the time comes, it'll be easier to deceive the higher-ups. If something important happens to the Qing family, can you guarantee that they won't retaliate? Qiao Xuexi's face paled. Is that serious? She didn't quite understand. These people were clearly the ones who made mistakes and were punished. Why would they resent and even plan to take revenge on the Qing family? Do you want to try? Seeing Tanggua's half-smile, Qiao Xuexi quickly shook her head. Of course she didn't dare to try. When it came to managing the household, even though she had been in charge for more than 2 months, there were still problems everywhere. Even with Madame Cheng's advice from time to time, there would always be new problems. Tanggua was the daughter of a big family, so she definitely knew more about managing the household than she did. Besides, how would she dare to gamble? What would she use to gamble? Even if she wanted to try, Madame Cheng wouldn't agree. Then I'll listen to you, Qiao Xuexi said. Tanggua shook her head. I'm just giving you a suggestion. You'll have to do it. Since Madame Cheng wanted her to be a tool, she would train Qiao Xuexi to be the best tool. This wasn't all bad for Qiao Xuexi. At least she could learn some skills, and in the future she could easily kick Qing Zifeng out of the house. In the future she would use her mouth and let Qiao Xuexi do everything. She believed that the 2 elders of the Qing family would be very satisfied. After all, she was really just an assistant. Qiao Xuexi. Should I go? Qiao Xuexi's legs trembled as she looked troubled. Can I? You can't be like this. Tanggua shook her head when she saw her cautious and submissive look. Do you know who you are now? The eldest young mistress of the Qing family has been married into the family for more than 2 months. You need to get used to your new identity as soon as possible. Don't communicate with the servants and ask them to please or trouble you. If you treat them too equally, they will lose their sense of propriety. Qiao Xuexi's face fell. Was it that serious? Do you feel that every time you give orders the efficiency is very slow? Qiao Xuexi nodded in agreement. Indeed. Because in their hearts, your status as the eldest young mistress of the Qing family isn't high. You should have treated them the same. Even if you're different now, you still treat them the same. Of course they won't listen to you so much. I get along well with them. Everyone likes me. Qiao Xuexi retorted. Oh, is that so? Then let's do an experiment later. How about it? Seeing Tanggua's smile again, Qiao Xuexi was unsure, but she still wanted to try. How? Chapter 54-46. It's almost time for afternoon tea. You go back to your courtyard and I'll go back to mine. Tanggua glanced at her pocket watch. Go back and wait for 10 minutes. Ask someone to make you a bowl of lotus seed soup. I'll go back and ask someone to make a bowl of lotus seed soup 15 minutes later. When the time comes, we'll see who gets the soup first. Everything will be clear. After we get the soup, we'll meet here. I ordered it first, so it should be sent to me first, Qiao Xuexi said. It looks like you're very sure. Let's go back now. Tanggua had already stood up and walked back to her courtyard from the pavilion. Qiao Xuexi paused. She didn't believe it, so she went back from another direction. She also had a pocket watch. When she got back, she sat in her room and stared at it. After about 10 minutes, she ordered her maid to ask the kitchen to make lotus seed soup for her. She also asked the people over there to hurry up. After another 5 minutes, Tanggua ordered Lu Shuang to go to the kitchen and ask someone to make lotus seed soup. Of course, she also told them to hurry up as she was hungry. Lu Shuang hurriedly nodded. When she reached the kitchen, she saw someone making lotus seed soup. Our second young mistress is eating lotus seed soup. You guys really have amazing foresight. It looks like it's almost done. Hurry up and put it in. The chef hesitated for a moment. But this is for the eldest young mistress. When he remembered that the second young mistress wasn't a simple person, he was still a little afraid. He looked over at Qiao Xuexi's maid. Orchid, send this bowl of lotus seed soup to the second young mistress first. It won't delay, right? Since the second young mistress wants it, then send it to her first. You guys know that the eldest young mistress has always been gentle and doesn't care so much. It won't take long to make a bowl of lotus seed soup. We can't neglect the second young mistress. Lu Shuang looked deeply at Orchid and remembered what she said. She smiled and thanked her. You're welcome. Even if the eldest young mistress came, she would do the same. She's always done that, Orchid said generously. Lu Shuang knew that this orchid used to help Qiao Xueshi take care of the flowers and plants. They used to be like sisters. Now that she was here, she would definitely help her out. Orchid was now working by Qiao Xueshi's side. Looking at her clothes, she probably got a lot of good stuff from Qiao Xueshi. In the end, he had no intention of protecting Qiao Xueshi outside. When the lotus seed soup was ready, Lu Shuang carried it back to the courtyard. After Tanggua saw it, she asked her to carry it all the way to the pavilion where she and Qiao Xueshi were. She sat in the pavilion and slowly enjoyed the food. Lu Shuang told Tanggua what the orchid said in the kitchen. I'll have to ask the housekeeper to check on Orchid. She probably has a lot of things hidden in her hands. With Qiao Xueshi's personality, it's possible for her to sneak things away. This kind of dirty hands and feet must be kicked out. Lu Shuang deeply agreed. She felt that Qiao Xueshi was really too honest. Even a servant girl wanted to bully her. It wasn't appropriate for her to say those words out loud, so she just complained in her heart. After a while, Qiao Xueshi carried the lotus seed soup over. She came alone. When she saw that Tanggua was almost done eating, she was convinced. She wasn't really hungry, so she put the lotus seed soup on the table and watched Tanggua eat. Convinced? Tanggua asked as she wiped the corner of her mouth. Convinced, Qiao Xueshi replied. Then Lu Shuang tell her about what happened in the kitchen. Chapter 54-47. How could that be? Qiao Xueshi didn't believe it. The scene in the kitchen was just like that. She clearly told Orchid that she was very hungry and wanted to eat the lotus seed soup immediately. How could Orchid tell the chef that she wasn't in a hurry and let Lu Shuang take the lotus seed soup that was almost done? At that moment, Qiao Xueshi felt betrayed. She treated Orchid so well that she pleaded with her mother to transfer her to her side, hoping that Orchid could also enjoy life with her. Do you want to eavesdrop? Qiao Xueshi was a little confused. Eavesdrop? Lu Shuang, bring her along. With the help of the system, Tanggua could obviously take a detour. She quickly found Lu Shuang's position and brought Qiao Xueshi to eavesdrop. At that moment, Lu Shuang was talking to her close friends. Her words were filled with disdain, jealousy, and all sorts of sour words that stung Qiao Xueshi's ears. Moreover, the other maids got along well with her and she took good care of them. But from their mouths, it seemed like they didn't say anything good about her. They were all mocking her like how a pheasant could fly on a branch and never become a phoenix. When Tanggua saw that it was about time, she brought Qiao Xueshi out. Orchid and the others were so scared that their faces turned pale and their legs trembled. No wonder I haven't been able to sleep well recently. So it's because everyone in the Qing family is gossipy. It's time to teach them a lesson. Tanggua was clearly smiling as she spoke, but it made Orchid and the others shiver. Since when can the servants of the Qing family casually talk about their masters? If you feel uncomfortable staying in the Qing family, I'll help you find another place to stay. How about that? This time, Orchid and the others were frightened and immediately ran to Qiao Xueshi to plead. They subconsciously felt that Tanggua wasn't the type to plead for mercy and that Qiao Xueshi was easier to deal with. Qiao Xueshi wanted to say something, but she remembered what she said before and the bowl of lotus seed soup that chilled her heart. In the end, she didn't say anything. Tanggua's actions today completely made her understand the servants of the Qing family in a new light. She was indeed not a good housekeeper. She couldn't even manage the people around her. Eldest young mistress, I really don't dare to do it again. Please forgive me this time. I won't speak nonsense again. Orchid pleaded, Eldest young mistress, have you forgotten the days when we depended on each other? At this moment the housekeeper hurried over. Lu Wu had brought him over. Eldest young mistress, second young mistress. Then he handed a list of names and a list to Tanggua. These are the results of the investigation. Tanggua casually glanced around and listened to Orchid's voice. Qiao Xueshi, do you have any objections to having someone search Orchid's house? She's on this list. Qiao Xueshi was stunned for a moment. Then she looked at Orchid's tear-stained face and remembered what happened before. Since she's here, let's search. She knew that something even more unexpected might happen next. There was no way to keep the orchids. She couldn't keep this person either. He had too many ideas. She was just being kind, but she didn't expect to attract a wolf, tiger, or leopard. She wasn't really a fool. She knew that there would be many disadvantages to keeping such a person by her side. Not long after, the housekeeper and his men turned Orchid's house upside down. Qiao Xueshi looked at the items that were found. Some of them were given to Orchid by her, while the other half were items that she rarely used and didn't give out. However, some of the valuable items had been secretly taken by Orchid. Orchid couldn't plead for mercy now. She was limp on the ground and tied up. Not long after, the Qing family tied up a few people and found a lot of stolen goods. Tanggua and Qiao Xueshi were drinking tea in the house. Perhaps only Tanggua had the mood to drink tea leisurely. Qiao Xueshi's expression was pleasant. Lu Wu came in from time to report things which made her feel cold all over. It turned out that there were so many people in the Qing family who were scheming in the dark. They were all people who embezzled their master's things. You'll know the results in a while. Qiao Xueshi instinctively shook her head. She couldn't do anything about it. You're the eldest young mistress of the Qing family. If you don't stand up for them, who will? If you don't show your authority today, the rest of the people won't listen to you. Do you really want today's incident to happen again? Qiao Xueshi thought about how she was going to stay here for the rest of her life. If today's incident happened every day, how terrible would it be? Then what should I do? Tanggua waved at Qiao Xueshi. Qiao Xueshi obediently went over. You, system. I can already see the little expert of the future. Chapter 54-48. These are the items that were found in your rooms. The butler verified that you took these items without permission and it has been recorded in the records. Also, the butler has checked the Qing family's internal expenditure and found that there is a huge discrepancy between the actual expenditure and what you reported. I don't think I need to explain what happened. According to the rules, I could have tied you up and taken you to the police station with these items and witnesses. You would have ended up in jail. After saying so much in one breath, Qiao Xueshi's heart pounded. Even though she looked calm on the surface, her heart was about to jump out of her chest. The people who were tied up in front of her were still making a ruckus and angrily asking what was going on. When she ordered people to bring the stolen items and account books up and said those words, their faces were now pale as they knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Their faces were bitter as if they had no choice. Even Orchid was now lying on the ground with a pitiful look on her face as if she was forced to do this. If she hadn't eavesdropped on them personally, she might have pitied them and thought that Orchid was innocent. You have worked for the Qing family for so many years. I can't ignore your past relationship and coldly send you to the police station. Qiao Xueshi recalled what Tanggua said to her and paused for a moment. As expected, she saw the surprise in the eyes of the people who were begging for mercy. They said, "Eldest young mistress is wise." Actually, she didn't quite understand what was going on. The outcome was the same, so why were they so grateful to her after changing the method? The butler has already confiscated the items that you shouldn't have. On account of our many years of friendship, I won't pursue the matter. You can collect this month's salary and travel expenses by today. Pack your things and leave. Even though they didn't want to leave, they knew that if they stayed, they would have to bear more serious consequences. It wasn't hard to accept this outcome. Orchid was the only one who didn't want to leave. She thought that her continuous kowtowing would soften Qiao Xueshi's heart, but the other party didn't even look at her. Seeing Qiao Xueshi's high and mighty attitude, she finally understood that Qiao Xueshi was no longer the gardener she used to be. She was now the eldest young mistress of the Qing family. Even though they came from similar backgrounds, their identities were worlds apart. She thought too highly of herself and missed the opportunity to stay in the Qing family. Now she was filled with regret. Butler, I'll leave the rest to you. Qiao Xueshi's support. It was the first time she gave orders in front of so many people. She still felt a little uneasy. She didn't ask her parents about this matter, and she didn't know if she would be blamed for dealing with these things on her own. Now that the matter was over and there was no turning back, she could only wait for the results. At this moment, Madame Cheng's maid's maid. Qiao Xueshi took a deep breath. She couldn't be here to slap her face, right? Qiao Xueshi looked at the fanatical faces of these people and finally understood why Tanggua wanted to drive them out. She even saw a few people looking at her with eyes full of schadenfreude. Qiao Xueshi was baffled. Even if her mother wanted to blame her, she wouldn't really protect these people who were greedy for the Qing family's things, right? Chapter 5449. Miss Bai Wei, does Madam have something to say? The housekeeper asked. Bai Wei nodded her head and glanced at the expectant faces. Her lips curled into a cold smile as she said, Madam asked me to pass on a message. This time it was because young mistress was benevolent and merciful that she let you go. It's also because old master isn't here. If old master was here you wouldn't have a good time. Since eldest young mistress has already punished you, then after you leave the Qing family take care of yourselves. The hopeful faces of the people turned ugly. However, they didn't have any complaints and watched Bai Wei leave. This time Qiao Xueshi was the one who was surprised. Mother actually supported this. Qiao Xueshi said to Tangguo when she returned. She even helped me maintain my reputation. This matter was originally caused by those people. Mother isn't a fool. Of course she would help you maintain your reputation. Qiao Xueshi remembered that this was all Tangguo's good idea. She was extremely grateful. It's all because you taught me well. I'll talk to Mother about this later. You were the one who thought of this. I'm just a messenger. Don't. Do you think Mother doesn't know about this matter? How many years has Mother been in charge of the Qing family? She knows everything clearly. There's no need to point it out. Qiao Xueshi thought that it was true. If she went to say it, Mother might misunderstand and think that Tangguo wanted to take credit. That wouldn't be good. It wasn't that her mother didn't know how capable she was. Only Tangguo could think of this method. When the three men of the Qing family returned, they found out that something big had happened. After hearing the story, they didn't have much of a reaction. They even felt happy about it. Everyone knew that Qiao Xueshi couldn't handle this matter well. It was most likely Tangguo's idea. However, everyone tacitly agreed not to mention this matter. Only when Madame Qing spoke to Tangguo would she praise her for doing a good job. Fresh grapes. Qing Zixiao returned to the room and saw Tangguo staring at the basket of grapes on the table. He explained, I saw them on the way back. I remembered that you like to eat these things, so I bought them together. Tangguo faintly nodded. A trace of deep meaning flashed across her eyes. She inadvertently asked, do father and mother have any? They don't like to eat grapes, Qing Zixiao said casually. He didn't think about anyone else when he bought this thing. On the way back he saw the seller with a basket of fresh grapes. Subconsciously he thought of the time when Tangguo ate fruits in the courtyard while basking in the sun. Therefore he bought the grapes without thinking too much. For the sake of that small couch, it was reasonable to buy her some toys that she liked. Besides, everyone's impression of him was that he was infatuated with Tangguo. If he didn't show it, people would think that he had a change of heart. If there were no accidents, he would play this role for the rest of his life. Only in this way could he secretly protect Xueshi and prevent her from being bullied by others. He knew very well that Xueshi was in the limelight in the Qing family today because of her. Otherwise, Xueshi wouldn't have been able to get away so easily. Seeing that she didn't do anything to Xueshi and even helped Xueshi, he would do his best to treat her better. Other than his heart, he could satisfy her in all material aspects. Have you dealt with the bandits? I've sent a letter to them. At the mention of this, Qing Zixiao was a little angry. These bandits are incomparably arrogant. They said that they should pay for the road because they were the ones who repaired it. They even said that they should pay 10% of the road fee every time they pass by, or pay a fixed amount every month so that they can pass by that month for free. They must be dreaming. Chapter 5450. The Qing family had been in Fish City for so many years, but they had never encountered such bandits. There are so many people passing by, and recently I heard that the Qing family was being charged. Tangguo was surprised. Do they have a grudge against the Qing family? Not really. The other party replied that they think the Qing family is rich and the other families don't have it easy, so they're only charging the Qing family for the time being. When Qing Zixiao saw the reply, he was so angry that he laughed. Did these bandits think the Qing family was easy to bully? He would rather send a box of small yellow croakers to the police station and wipe them out than feed money to these unreasonable bandits. Then how should we deal with this? Tangguo asked. Qing Zixiao mistakenly thought that Tangguo would care about this, so he didn't hide it from her and told her what he was thinking. I've already discussed it with Dad and Big Brother. We'll send it to the police station tomorrow. Can it be solved? Tangguo asked again. What if there are many bandits and they have weapons? Qing Zixiao said disdainfully. How many weapons can they have? Once the police get involved, they'll be wiped out. Don't worry, this matter will be over soon. Tangwa nodded thoughtfully. That was right. Yenqing didn't have many weapons, so he could only run when facing the police. At this time, the police station was a bit like a place occupied by various forces. It was very chaotic. Basically, at this time, ordinary people didn't have a good life. It could be said that at this time, the only things that could save one's life were money and power, including how many weapons and people one had. Dear host, Yenqing is wandering around the streets. When they block the road, they're all masked so they can appear openly on the streets. They're on the streets today to find out what's going on with the Qing family. Tangwa went out. She still took the rickshaw and stopped at the cinema because Yenqing was there. Yenqing was a bit listless at first, but when he saw Tangwa, his eyes lit up. Of course he didn't move. After all, they had only spoken a few times and they didn't have much of a relationship. He subconsciously walked to the middle as if he was expecting something. When the familiar voice brushed past his ear and brought along a gust of fragrant wind, the bun in his hand no longer smelled good. After Tangwa went in for a while, he threw the steamed bun that he had taken a bite out of to one of his men. I'm going in to watch a movie. Boss, it's always you alone. We also want to go in and take a look. Let's go together? That's right, boss. It's not like we don't have money now. We can still watch a movie. Of course, Yenqing was unwilling. Look at the next round. There aren't enough seats for this round. Boss, I've asked. There are still many empty seats for this round. The little brother said. Yenqing scratched his head. But I don't want to watch with you guys. It's too crowded. After saying that, Yenqing jogged in and even turned around to glare at them. You're not allowed to come in. It's very crowded. You guys watch the next match. The lackeys were all confused. Was it a squeeze? As it was so wide, how could it be squeezed? Yenqing was puzzled. Business? What kind of business? He found Tangwa's seat and found his way to her side. He took the initiative to ask, Second young Mistress Qing, what kind of business do you want to talk about? He didn't expect that a young mistress would want to do business with a bandit like him. Let's make things clear first. I won't do things like killing people. Do you know where Qing Zixiao went today? Chapter 54-51. Yenqing's expression froze. He did take this matter seriously. After all, the Qing family was not to be trifled with. They had come out today to gather information. If the situation was not right, they would definitely take the things and run. They would definitely not go head-on with the Qing family. He went to the police station with a box of small yellow croakers. Tangwa said slowly. She looked at the screen and did not observe Yenqing's expression. You should know what he's going to do with this without me telling you, right? With that, Tangwa suddenly felt a trace of murderous intent. She turned and saw Yenqing's red eyes emitting a trace of hatred. Yenqing used to be a good young man. His family made teapots and there was an old teapot passed down from the past. Originally, the days were very enjoyable and the whole family lived in harmony. However, good times did not last long. Ever since the police station was set up in U City, the sheriff heard from somewhere that Yenqing's family had an old teapot. The old teapot was the lifeblood of the Yen family. His parents refused to hand it over no matter what. Later they caused trouble for him time and time again and were framed and sent to prison. Yenqing was still young then and was lucky to escape. When he heard news of his parents again, it was that they had died in prison. Seems like I've come to the right place. Second young Mistress Qing, you didn't come all the way here just to tell me this, right? Yenqing seemed to be a different person. You've given me such an important piece of information. If you need any help in the future, Yenqing will definitely not refuse. He knew those bastards at the police station too well. It was not the time to go head-on yet. He was not strong enough. Even though there were many people without a suitable weapon, his brothers would still die. Therefore they could only pack up and leave. I want to give you something as repayment for the Qing family. Tangwa's faint and emotionless voice traveled into Yenqing's ears. She lowered her voice so that only Yenqing could hear her. There's a huge rock at the bottom of Oxhorn Mountain. It's on the right side of the rock. If you keep walking, you'll see a cave among dozens of trees. The thing I want to give you is in this cave. She had placed this thing last night. Regardless of whether Yenqing was still in a daze or thinking about what she had given her, Tangwa stood up and left the cinema with her bag. Only then did Yenqing realize that he had left again. He hurriedly chased after her, but this time he didn't even see her back. He looked at the people coming and going on the street in a daze. Why was she so mysterious every time she appeared? What was it that he had given him and had hidden it so well? Oxhorn Mountain, wasn't that the mountain he occupied? So she already knew about his identity? Yenqing touched his chin. This woman was too mysterious. Did second young Master Qing know about her? He remembered that Qing Zixiao was only qualified to sleep on the floor, so he probably didn't know anything. Yenqing's lackeys were puzzled as they watched him frown for a while and then laugh happily for a while. Let's go back. Boss, we want to watch a movie. Yenqing slapped the back of the other party's head. Qing, you're not doing your job. What are you looking at? Go back and fix the road. Repair? None of the nearby roads were as smooth as this one. Speaking of which, the matter with the Qing family wasn't over yet. Shouldn't they be hiding for the time being? Yenqing ran quickly and his lackeys had no choice but to keep up. Yenqing followed Tangua's instructions and arrived at the foot of Oxhorn Mountain. He found the familiar rock. Chapter 54-52. Under the puzzled gazes of his underlings, Yenqing went to the right of the boulder and counted the trees one by one. When he reached the 10th tree, he finally saw the cave. It was next to the cliff. If not for Tangua, he wouldn't have known that there was a cave here. Looking at the weeds outside, he removed them and went into the cave. His underlings were a little frightened. They called out to their boss and followed him in. After entering, they realized that there was a large space inside. Yenqing and the rest were stunned when they saw the wooden boxes on the ground. Boss, what are these? When did you hide things here? There were so many wooden boxes. What was inside? Yenqing opened the nearest wooden box. When he saw what was inside, he swallowed his saliva subconsciously. His underlings behind him were so shocked that they were trembling. It was actually these guys. There were so many big guys. Their boss was really good at hiding things. Boss, you hid so many good things. Why would we be afraid of the police? The underlings took the wooden boxes one by one. They could hear the swallowing of saliva. They were all here. Don't make a sound. Come and move them tonight. Yenqing didn't want to say much about the origins of these things. His underlings thought that he had hidden them before. I received news that Qing Zixiao took a box of small yellow croakers to the police. They will probably come and deal with us in a few days. Boss, with these things, what are we afraid of? We might even be able to take revenge. Yes, it wasn't just Yenqing here. The other underlings all had grudges with the police. That group of people was worse than bandits. After leaving the cinema, Tangua didn't go straight to the Qing family. Instead, she wandered around for a while. She wanted to get some suitable clothes made. She went to Yun's tailor shop. In the past, she used to come here often. That was why she was recognized the moment she arrived. Second young Mistress Qing, you haven't been here for a while. The waiter greeted Tangua warmly and called out to her. Coincidentally, Yun Qiaoyan was there too. When she saw Tangua, she walked up to her with a smile. Second young Mistress Qing, I have a new design recently. I combined the Eastern and Western styles and designed a new style. Do you want to try it? Do you have a design? Of course. Yun Qiaoyan hurriedly took it out and showed it to Tangua while sizing her up. Have you been okay recently? It's not that I want to say this, but this is really unlucky. It's all right. Tangua said indifferently. Yun Qiaoyan was not a bad girl. She was just a little willful and straightforward. She couldn't get used to it, she really couldn't get used to it. She could get used to it, she really liked it. She was more carefree. The original owner wasn't familiar with her, but she was very happy to help the original owner design clothes. She felt that the original owner was a natural clothes rack, and any clothes would look good on her. I heard that the eldest young mistress of your Qing family recently did something big? Yun Qiaoyan said unhappily. Aren't you going to show off? She's a girl from a family, how can she be suppressed by a bricklayer's daughter? Tangua smiled faintly and didn't answer. Yun Qiaoyan also didn't have the intention to ask. When Tangua finished choosing the design, she came over to measure Tangua's size and asked in a low voice, Is second young Master Qing good to you? Not bad. I heard that he is meticulous to you. All the women in your city are jealous. Yun Qiaoyan muttered again. The main thing is that you like him. If he is sincere to you, then it's wrong. You should live well. No matter what, you are better than young Master Cheng. You don't think young Master Cheng is good? Tangwa asked in surprise. Chapter 54-53. Yun Xiaolian looked around as if she was afraid of being overheard. It was afternoon and no one was here. She leaned over to Tangwa and whispered, "It seems that you don't know about this." Tangwa raised her eyebrows. "Did Qing Zifeng meet that woman? What's the matter?" Yun Xiaolian hesitated. "I heard about it by accident that day. Just listen to it. I don't know if it's true or not. The young Master Qing might have a woman outside." Yun Xiaolian continued to measure Tangwa and kept talking. "I heard that she's an international student who came back from outside. Recently, there have been many activities organized by local students and international students in U City. Most of them met at the activities. Is that so? I didn't pay much attention to this, so I didn't know." Tangwa looked indifferent and said in a very traditional style of this era, "If he really likes her, he can go home and tell his mother to marry that international student. My mother shouldn't object." Yun Xiaolian laughed. "I don't think so." "Why not?" "I heard that she has received a new education and has seen the world. How can she be someone's concubine?" Yun Xiaolian laughed. "Even I don't want to be someone's concubine. Don't talk about those people. They have their own pride." "Pride? Since she's proud and doesn't want to be a concubine, what's the point of seducing someone who already has a wife?" Yun Xiaolian was stunned and thought about it carefully. "You're right. If she doesn't want to be a concubine and wants to seduce a married man, she's no different from a mistress." This time the envy on her face faded and turned into disdain. "Fortunately you reminded me. What new education? So it's teaching people to be a mistress." "It's not that way," Tangwa interrupted. "Have a good sense of propriety. Any education has its advantages." Yun Xiaolian laughed when she heard this. "I like you. It's always more comfortable to talk to you than other people. You're the only one who would say that when they come here to make clothes. Those who are lower in status than me flatter me, please me, be careful, and say all kinds of lies. Those who are higher in status than me only treat me as a stinky tailor. They look down on me here and there. They even put on an arrogant face. Talking to you always make me understand something different. Actually, from young Master Cheng's point of view, your matter isn't completely bad. At least second young Master Cheng really likes you. And if we can get past this hurdle in the future, it'll be pretty good," Yun Xiaolian said. "Previously, I thought that Xiao Xueshi had gotten a great bargain. I was it. Yun Xiaolian waved the scissors in her hand. "To be honest, in this world, other than my father, only this pair of scissors will never change. That you. I've always been like this. I used to be a little infatuated with him. I thought he was good in every way and every part of him was what I liked." Yun Xiaolian shook her head. "I learned to make clothes from my father when I was 6. I've heard about all the big and small things in U City since I was young. I've heard stories about men changing their hearts hundreds of times." Chapter 54-54. Why do you think a man can have a change of heart no matter how much he likes you? Yun Xiaolian shook the clothes in her hands. "Do they really treat us as clothes?" Tangwa said, "You're thinking too much." "Everything I've seen makes me think too much." Yun Xiaolian asked, "You haven't said why." "Everyone has a chance to have a change of heart, no matter if it's a man or a woman," Tangwa replied. "There's no need to stop something from happening just because you might have a change of heart in the future. But before that, you need to strengthen yourself so that you don't have to be afraid of a change of heart." Yun Xiaolian was confused. She seemed to understand but also didn't. "I kind of understand but I don't understand. I can't understand everything but I think it sounds reasonable." Yun Xiaolian murmured and didn't ask further. She felt that if she didn't understand today, she might understand tomorrow. No matter who it was, if she asked too much she would probably feel annoyed. Or if she really wanted to understand, she could ask next time when there was a chance. Maybe she would figure it out during her free time. Just as Yun Xiaolian was about to say something, Qing Zixiao came. The moment she saw Qing Zixiao, Yun Xiaolian was surprised. After all, it was very likely that the Qing family was the one who almost made a fool of her father. Since it was the Qing family, Qing Zixiao was most likely involved in this matter. She didn't mention this in front of Tanggua. After all, she was the one who put down the Qing family's list first. She was purely impulsive at that time. Besides, there was no specific date on the list, so she wanted to teach Qiao Xueshi a lesson. She was very angry at that time. She was very curious about what kind of person Qing Zixiao was. After Qing Zixiao sent the bride to the wrong room, Qing Zifeng could accept another bride who wasn't as good as Tanggua. As the subsequent events unfolded, she felt that it was already dull and boring. Qing Zixiao entered the Yun's tailor shop purely through this place. He still felt a little uncomfortable when he thought of the last time he tried to steal a chicken but ended up losing the rice. Today he just came to take a look. In his heart, he planned to find a chance in the future to make the father and daughter of the Yun's tailor shop suffer a loss. Unfortunately, what happened last time greatly damaged his private warehouse, and he almost couldn't make a comeback. He still hadn't finished dealing with the cloth he had hoarded. It was still inconvenient for him to do things now. If it weren't for this matter, his people might have been able to develop in other places, and he wouldn't have to be so timid when doing things. He didn't expect to meet Tanggua here after coming in. "What are you doing here?" Qing Zixiao walked up to Tanggua and looked at the drawings on the side. "Making clothes." "Yeah, I haven't been here in a long time." "If you like it, then make a few more sets." Qing Zixiao picked up the drawings and flipped through them. He casually asked Yun Qiaolian, "Which ones did second young Mistress Hu choose?" Yun Qiaolian hurriedly replied with a smile, "I chose number 7. I think number 3 and number 9 are not bad, and number 16 is also very beautiful." In front of outsiders, Qing Zixiao was used to thinking about Tanggua in every way as if he wanted to spoil her. At this moment, even Qing Zixiao didn't know whether he was acting as usual, habitually revealing his infatuation for her in front of everyone, or if he subconsciously wanted to do so and chose a few clothes that suited her very well. "Let's also decide on the few sets that I chose just now." Qing Zixiao didn't give Tanggua a chance to speak and directly made the decision. When he closed the drawings, he said to Tanggua, "I think these are very suitable for you, so I decided on my own. Since we're already here, of course we should choose a few more." Chapter 54-55. Is it done? Tanggua and Qing Zixiao had already left the tailor's shop and were now sitting in separate rickshaws. The rickshaws' coachmen were very tactful and pulled the two of them side by side at a moderate speed, making it easy for them to communicate. "It's done." At the mention of this matter, Qing Zixiao seemed to exhale a turbid breath. He didn't know if he was used to it, but he couldn't help but say a few more words. He didn't know when it started, but he had become more talkative in front of Tanggua. He was more talkative than he was with anyone else at home. Perhaps he knew deep down that because of that incident, Tanggua would never be on the same side as the rest of the family. Even if they really seemed to get along harmoniously and didn't have any conflicts at all. Also, no matter what, they were husband and wife in name. Even if they didn't sleep on the same bed, they were still in the same room. Of course, it was more convenient for them to talk than other people. Ever since he was young, he didn't have anyone he could really talk to. At this moment, Tanggua was probably one of them. Of course, he was just testing her bit by bit. He would say a little today and a little tomorrow. When he realized that Tanggua wouldn't talk about this with the rest of the family, he said more and more. The fact that she kept a distance from the rest of the family reassured him. "In less than 3 days, those bandits blocking the road won't have the chance to take our family's toll anymore." Qing Zixiao was of course most angry about the bandits. So what if they wanted to take a toll but they only took the Qing family's toll? In any case, the Qing family was one of the top families in Fish City. The bandits' actions made the Qing family lose a lot of face in Fish City. Because of this incident, the Qing father and son were often teased when they went out. If they didn't get back at them, they would probably be laughed at for a while. The rickshaws ran at a moderate speed. Qing Zixiao talked to Tanggua the whole way and didn't seem to be able to stop. Just as they were about to reach the Qing family's house, Qing Zixiao suddenly saw a place selling fresh fruits on the street. He stopped the rickshaws and bought some fruits before letting the rickshaws continue. When they reached home, Qing Zixiao gave the fruits he bought to Lu Shuang so that she could wash them. "Aren't you going to send some to Mom and Dad?" Tanggua asked by reflex. "They don't like it." Qing Zixiao said, "I often see you eating these. I tasted this melon just now. It's quite sweet. We'll get some ice later." It's very cheap. No one would notice such a small matter. It was just some fruits. Even if the two of them liked to eat them, they could just ask someone to buy them. There was no need for him to send them over. Tangwa didn't say anything more. She looked at Qing Zixiao's back as he walked into the study with a meaningful expression. I originally thought that Qing Zixiao was a scheming person and would be difficult to deal with. I didn't expect it to be so easy. Host, you didn't even do anything and he actually fell for you so quickly. Although Qing Zixiao didn't look like much, some of the details were still quite scary. Because I happened to find his weakness. Tangwa sat down and ate a piece of iced melon. His childhood was lacking. Even though he's the second young master of the Qing family, he's actually been treading on thin ice since he was young. He's always been careful in everything he does. On the surface he was the second young master of the Qing family, but in reality he was just the first young master of the Qing family. Even if the Qing couple does a good job on the surface, they won't be able to make him get the attention he deserves. He doesn't trust the Qing couple. He doesn't like them and even loathes them. He also doesn't respect Qing Zifeng as much as you think he does. Instead he's probably jealous. Perhaps in his heart he thinks that Qing Zifeng is stupid. Chapter 54-56. If I'm not wrong, he's been avoiding Qing Zifeng, respecting him, helping him and pretending to be obedient. There's another purpose, killing him with flattery. Killing him with flattery? That's right, he's killing him with flattery. Haven't you realized that Qing Zifeng has been spoiled by him? Unfortunately, the Qing couple didn't realize that they're also being killed by flattery. Not many people can really understand such a subtle change. After all, they're all involved. Qing Zixiao is a very patient person. After so many years of patience, Qing Zifeng can't leave him at all. Even if he's not the master on the surface, when old Master Qing retires, he can still do a lot of things behind the scenes. The reason why he's not messing around for the time being is that in this era, the rich and powerful still care about their reputation. They won't easily do things that will damage their reputation. He's wrapped himself up tightly, but there's still a big flaw. He really needs someone to talk to. Even if this person doesn't respond, as long as he's not on the Qing couple's and Qing Zifeng's side, it's enough for him. Speaking of which, he's really a pitiful person. I didn't realize that the host really pitied him. Why should I pity him? If I pity him, who can pity the original owner? Qing Zixiao was a pitiful, hateful and abominable person. 3 days later, Qing Zixiao came back with an ugly expression. As usual, Tangwa asked him what happened. Something big happened? You look terrible. Yes. Qing Zixiao drank a glass of water and calmed down before saying, the bandits blocking the road are not simple. Tangwa raised her eyebrows slightly and pretended to be surprised. Can't the police solve it? They have a lot of weapons. I don't know where they got them from. Qing Zixiao drank another glass of water. The police station arranged for 50 people this morning, and everyone was equipped with weapons. I thought it was a sure thing. After all, they were just some bumpkin bandits. I didn't expect them to be waiting on the mountain. Only a dozen of the 50 people from the police station were left. I've never heard of such fierce bandits from the nearby mountains. Even if they're fierce, they wouldn't directly attack the police. I feel that there might be a conspiracy here. Those bandits might be from some force. Qing Zixiao's expression was extremely serious as he sighed. Maybe Fish City is going to change again. After 3 glasses of water, Qing Zixiao stood up. Don't go out these days. Your city isn't peaceful. I don't know if the bandits will come down the mountain to cause trouble. I'll go and see if Father and Big Brother have returned. I have to prepare for this in advance, and see if I can get in touch with those bandits again. As a big family member, they had a keen instinct. Since the police couldn't deal with the bandits, they could only support them. Even if the price was high, it was better than losing their lives. Tangwa watched Qing Zixiao leave and the smile on her face became brighter. Qing Zixiao only needed to look back to see it. Unfortunately, he left too quickly and didn't intend to look back. A few days later, the Qing family contacted the bandits and signed a contract for the passage fee. It was said that other families who wanted to transport goods also secretly paid for a year and a month. After hearing that the bandits had no intention of going down the mountain, the people of Yu City were relieved. From that day on, Nyoto Mountain became famous. However, that place was an important road and not many people dared to provoke it. Chapter 54-57. In Fish City, Oxhead Mountain had become a very special place. Even the police had to stay away from it, tacitly not mentioning that place. Boss, I've avenged my brother. Boss, thank you. I've also taken my revenge. After waiting for so many years, this day has finally come. My sister might have already met that scumbag down there. Yan Qing was also very excited when he saw how excited his subordinates were. It was a pity that he hadn't taken his revenge yet because Zhang Xinxian, the culprit who had killed his parents, had been transferred away a year ago and wasn't here anymore. However, he had personally taken care of Zhang Xinxian's lackeys in the morning. It's a pity that Zhang Xinxian isn't here. If he was, we would have killed him and avenged boss's parents. Yan Qing said, there's no hurry. We'll meet them eventually. Now we should consider how to develop. Because of an opportunity we got something good and signed an agreement with those families. But you and I both have to understand that they signed the agreement as a last resort. They didn't do it willingly. Once a force stronger than us appears, they'll immediately betray us. While we're still benefiting, we can't relax. We have to spend the money we got as soon as possible to equip ourselves. We don't have many people and other places aren't suitable for us. We're all commoners and can't afford to suffer. Besides, with the situation outside, we'll still be destroyed if we don't pay attention. Even if we win now, we won't be able to do anything big with so few people. Boss, what do you mean? With our ability, we can only guard Oxhead Mountain. As for recruiting, don't think about it for now. That's a waste of time, effort, and money. We also need the right time, place, and people. We lack all of that. We need to wait for an opportunity. The world is divided after a long time and united after a long time. Before we see that glimmer of hope, we won't leave Oxhead Mountain. He also said that after Tang Gui assisted Qiao Xueshi in the Qing family, they were indeed well managed. Tang Gui's attitude of not taking credit for herself made the Qing couple very satisfied. Qiao Xueshi was the only one who felt guilty. She felt that Tang Gui had helped her so much, but she always took the credit. Tang Gui casually comforted Qiao Xueshi with a few words, and it was as if Qiao Xueshi had been injected with chicken blood. She began to study diligently again. Unknowingly, no one knew that the person Qiao Xueshi trusted the most in the Qing family was Tang Gui. She listened to Tang Gui the most. Whatever Tang Gui said, she felt that it was right without thinking. Qing Zixiao had also developed a habit of treating Tang Gui well and finding things for her that she liked. He was used to saying a lot in front of her, even though she would never comment on it. Whenever they saw something interesting, they would subconsciously think of Tang Gui. Unknowingly, the time he spent thinking about Qiao Xueshi had decreased. It wasn't until he accidentally heard something that he finally remembered that the person he truly liked was Qiao Xueshi. The news of Qing Zifeng getting close to a woman outside finally reached Qing Zixiao's ears. Qing Zixiao usually didn't pay attention to where Qing Zifeng went. He didn't expect the other party to do this in the blink of an eye. Now he wasn't the only one who knew about it. Everyone in the family knew about it too. Madame Qing and Old Master Qing weren't too angry. They were currently asking Qing Zifeng who the lady was and whether her background was clean. If he really liked her, he shouldn't let her go outside. It would be best if he married her. Qing Zifeng didn't expect the matter to be exposed so quickly. The Qing couple's attitude made him heave a sigh of relief. Father, mother, Yuan is different from other women. She won't be willing. Moreover, I won't marry her just like that. Marrying her would be restricting her freedom and thoughts. That would be an insult to her. Qing Zifeng's words almost made Qing Zixiao explode. Qiao Xueshi's eyes were red and tears rolled down uncontrollably. She couldn't believe that this was the person who used to speak sweet words to her and fell in love with someone else in the blink of an eye. After meeting Yuan, I finally know what true love is. It turns out that the taste of love is so free, fragrant, pleasant, and makes people yearn for it. Tang Gui was drinking water and almost spat it out. Chapter 54-58. Qing Zifeng's words left everyone in the Qing family dumbfounded. The Qing couple looked at each other and felt that his words were strange. If Qing Zifeng didn't look fine, they would have thought that he was possessed. Qing Zixiao was about to explode in anger. He had created such an opportunity for Qing Zifeng to marry his beloved. It had only been a year or so, but Qing Zifeng had fallen in love with another woman. He didn't care about Xueshi at all and even said such heartless words. He was really regretful. If he hadn't controlled his selfishness on the day of the wedding, Xueshi would have been his. Then he could have protected Xueshi personally and Xueshi wouldn't have been hurt by Qing Zifeng. He had calculated many things, but he didn't expect Qing Zifeng to have a change of heart after marrying Xueshi for less than a year. Now that everyone's attention was on Qing Zifeng, Qing Zixiao couldn't help but look at Xiao Xueshi. Seeing her red eyes and tears falling down, his heart ached. Brother, what are you saying about sister-in-law? What kind of woman is she? Marrying her or insulting her? Why? Do you think that being a mistress will bring honor to your ancestors? Qing Zixiao stood up and couldn't help but rebuke. Even when he was furious, he didn't forget his role. He was only the brother-in-law of the Qing family and he was seeking justice for his sister-in-law. Other than Tanggua, no one found it strange. After all, Qing Zifeng's words were too strange and no one thought it was appropriate. They had never seen that woman, but from Qing Zifeng's attitude, they didn't like that woman and didn't even look forward to meeting her. She didn't marry into the family but was entangled with a married man. Qing Zixiao was right. He was a mistress. After going out and seeing so much of the world, she finally felt that being a mistress was so glorious. It was really a joke. Tanggua didn't have the right to say anything. After all, with her status, she couldn't say anything. Anyway, this matter only needed Qing Zixiao and everything would go according to plan. Zixiao, I won't allow you to say that about Yuan. Qing Zifeng was furious. Yuan is not that kind of person. We just met a little late. I was the one who pursued Yuan. None of this has anything to do with her. She was the one who let me know what true love was. Similarly, she also obtained true free love from me. What about sister-in-law? Qing Zixiao questioned. He felt that Qing Zifeng's words, which were full of the taste of freedom, were a joke. All of this happened. Considering Qing Zifeng's personality, it didn't seem strange. After all, he had once eloped with Xiao Xueshi. Xiao Xueshi hesitated for a long time, but after being coaxed by Qing Zifeng's imagination of the future, she still followed him. How did they fail? It was Qing Zifeng, the young master who couldn't bear hardships and wanted to do everything well. She wanted to elope, then so be it. Her mode of transportation had to be more comfortable. In the end, she was easily caught by the Qing family. Qing Zifeng turned back to look at Xiao Xueshi with a regretful expression. Xueshi is a good person, but when we were together we didn't understand the true meaning of love. It's a pity that when I finally understood, I was already married to Xueshi. Then what are you trying to do by saying all this today? Xiao Xueshi said with a sobbing tone. She really didn't understand. It had only been a year, but the person who had once pledged his love to her was already another woman's. Chapter 54-59. Since there's no love in this marriage, I think we should end it and part on good terms so that we won't delay each other. Qing Zifeng said matter-of-factly, you're a good girl, but you're not suitable for me. We can't have true love between us, at least I can't experience it. I've found what I want now, so you can find what you want too. Boss. Master Qing finally couldn't take it anymore. What nonsense are you talking about? What messy love? Xueshi is already the eldest daughter-in-law of the Qing family. This is a fact that can't be changed in this lifetime. You can either break up with that woman or take her in. Choose one. Qing Zifeng was stunned by the roar, but he still said calmly, Father, I really can't live without Yuan. Yuan is the person I need. Father and mother don't agree to this and they can't keep my heart. My heart has already left with Yuan. Unless you take Yuan as your only lover, taking her as a concubine is an insult to her. Xiao Xueshi cried very sadly. Qing Zifeng's resolute look made her speechless. Madame Qing was also angry. She said that as long as she was in this family, the Qing family would never have a divorce. Qing Zixiao really couldn't take it anymore. He jumped out, grabbed Qing Zifeng and beat him up. Qing Zifeng laughed wildly. I don't know why you're so against it. As long as you don't stop me and Yuan, you can beat me up. The only thing you can bind me with is my body. You will never be able to control my thoughts. Tanggua also couldn't hold it in. She used her handkerchief to cover her mouth and laughed. When she read the plot before, she knew it was funny. She didn't expect to see it in person. It was so funny that she couldn't stop laughing. This Qing Zifeng, was he born to collect debts from the Qing family? She glanced at Xiao Xueshi. He was really crying sadly. Qing Zixiao couldn't do anything to Qing Zifeng. In the end, he beat him twice and let him go. Qing Zifeng laughed loudly as he walked out. It was as if he was laughing at the people here for not being able to keep him. He left the Qing family with a strange back view. Xueshi, don't worry. As long as we're here, that vixen called you and won't even think about us. Not to mention being the main wife, I won't even agree to being a concubine. This vixen is obviously a troublemaker. Nothing good will come out of bringing her back. Madame Qing comforted Xiao Xueshi. Old Master Qing comforted her. You'll always be the eldest daughter-in-law of the Qing family. No one can change that. At this point he glanced at Madame Qing. Boss is usually spoiled. This time he met a new one. When he's bored he'll come back. His heart ached for his son. Moreover, Qing Zifeng was in such a state that it was useless to beat him up. After a while, when it's no longer fresh, boss will still come back to live with us. Madame Qing continued to comfort her. Just stay at home and rest assured. This man will always have other thoughts at some point in time. In the end he will realize that the first wife at home is still better. At that time he will stop. Don't resent boss too much. It's probably because the fox spirit outside is too clever. Boss was fooled by her for a while. Time will reveal a person's true nature. When boss discovers the truth he will definitely kick him away. Tangua was a little speechless. At the end of the day she didn't feel heartache for someone who didn't fall from her body. Qing Zifeng didn't do such a thing for no reason. These two people were too biased. She seemed to have already heard the sound of Qing Zixiao's fists clenching. He must be regretting it now. Wasn't that a fleeting thought on their wedding day? Chapter 5460. What did you say? Eldest young master took away a large sum of money. It's almost half a year's income. He said that it was for something important. When old Master Qing heard the news he almost fainted. Was eldest young master going to take the money to support that vixen outside? Usually he trusted Qing Zifeng very much, so when he took away the money he usually asked Qing Zifeng to inform him. He didn't expect to fall into a trap here. Qing Zixiao was very silent. He had already suggested that when the money was taken away to a certain amount, they would need proof so that there wouldn't be any mistakes. At that time he was even scolded by old Master Qing for being too defensive. Wasn't it only old Master Qing and Qing Zifeng who could take away the money? What proof did they need? This time did he deserve it? Or did they deserve it? Qing Zixiao mocked in his heart. Qing Zifeng learned fast enough. He wasn't a complete good-for-nothing. After all, he knew to take more money when he went out. A few days later, they heard that Qing Zifeng bought a small house outside and was currently living with a woman. Qing Zifeng's friends often came to play in that small house. Xiao Xueshi also learned about this woman called Xie Yuan. She was now teaching oil painting in a school and was admired by many students. Qing Zifeng hadn't been back for many days, so she planned to meet this woman called Xie Yuan. When she went there she only told Tangua about it. I'm just going to take a look. I don't mean anything else. I just want to see who can make Zifeng unable to return home, take away so much money without permission, and even violate our original oath. Xiao Xueshi's eyes reddened again. I really don't understand. Maybe this is retribution. I took your position and the heavens think that I'm a bad person. Now they're using this to punish me. I'm not trying to persuade you. Tangua didn't comfort her. What I mean is, when you go, ask the butler to arrange 2 thugs for you to protect your safety. It's already chaotic outside. It's safer to bring 2 more people. Xiao Xueshi was stunned for a moment, then nodded. You're right. We should bring some people. Now Xiao Xueshi felt that whatever Tangua said made sense. Originally she had planned to go alone, but under Tangua's suggestion she asked the butler to arrange a few people for her. She had also learned how to lie without batting an eyelid, saying that she wanted to go out for a walk. The steward didn't find it strange at all. This matter was too big and now everyone in Fish City knew about it. Knowing that it was not very peaceful outside, the butler arranged 8 people for Xiao Xueshi. You must be eldest young Madam Qing? Xiao Xueshi went to the school entrance to wait for Xie Yuan. She had seen Xie Yuan's picture before. She asked someone to wait at the side while she stood at the entrance. Unexpectedly, before she could recognize Xie Yuan, the other party recognized her. I am. Xiao Xueshi gently raised her neck and carefully sized up Xie Yuan. She was a very beautiful woman with a scholarly aura. In short, this woman's beauty was somewhat flamboyant. She was different from the women she often saw. She was wearing a Western-style dress and thick heels. She carried a book and walked with her head held high. Her chest was really different. Her hair was also slightly curled, very Western style. The people she was used to seeing, including herself, were slightly hunched. Although she was very beautiful, it was rare to see such a beauty with her head held high and chest held high. Chapter 5461. Qiao Xueshi didn't know why, but the first thing that came to her mind was whether she could hold her head high and straighten her back, unlike her current hunchback. She also recalled a person in her mind, Tanggua. She finally understood why she wasn't nervous at all when she saw Qiao Xueshi. Qiao Xueshi was so beautiful and aggressive, but she wasn't afraid at all. It was because she had already seen a beauty with her head held high, and this was the only one she had ever seen. It was as if the hunchback didn't suit her at all. This person was Tanggua. Perhaps it was because the Qing family was in the wrong for sending the newlyweds to the wrong bridal chamber, so they subconsciously gave in to Tanggua. As long as she didn't cause trouble, no one would care about her actions. Don't you have anything to say to me? Or do you want to say something? You want me to leave Qing Zifeng? Xie Yuan asked with a smile. She was slightly taller than Qiao Xueshi, and she had a bright and beautiful smile on her face. If it was anyone else, they would have felt inferior because of her smile. Qiao Xueshi didn't. She also found it strange that she would feel inferior when meeting such a person. But she really didn't. She looked at Xie Yuan, and the person in her mind was still Tanggua. She commented on Xie Yuan in her heart. She was obviously a good woman, so why did she have to be an outside wife? She had studied so much for nothing, and she had seen so much for nothing. Even if she was beautiful and had her head held high, that was all there was to it. If she was really capable, she shouldn't have been an outside wife. She was still so arrogant after becoming an outside wife. She probably didn't have a good upbringing. Qiao Xueshi cleared her throat. Miss Xie, I heard that you went to study abroad a long time ago. You're very knowledgeable, so you attracted Zifeng. This is just some ideological resonance. Actually, I feel that there's no common language between the two of you, and there's no love between the two of you. It's better for everyone to separate, Xie Yuan said with a smile. No one will be happy if you force yourself to be together. I know that the two of you were once in love, but that's all in the past. Humans had to look forward in order to look into the future. Zifeng doesn't like you anymore, and you should find someone who likes you instead of bitterly staying in that empty courtyard. Foreign customs are really different from local customs. Qiao Xueshi did not continue the conversation. It seems that my knowledge is shallow. In our country, seducing a married man to buy a house outside to live is called a mistress. I didn't expect it to be called love in a foreign country. The culture is different. It's really incomprehensible. Miss Xie must have been very young when she studied abroad, right? I don't know if your family knows about it and if they can understand the customs you learned from abroad. By the way, although the outside world is different and the customs are different, this is China after all. We have our own customs. Miss Xie, you can't forget your roots just because you went out for a spin. Every place has its own customs. The customs of other places cannot be forcefully brought in. Those who know will understand that Miss Xie is pursuing the freedom of love. Those who don't will still think that Miss Xie is a mistress. Qiao Xueshi said, that's a little harsh, but honest words are unpleasant to the ear. Miss Xie, you should pay attention to it. Dad and Mom said that I will always be the eldest daughter-in-law of the Qing family. You know our local customs. A man has 3 wives and 4 concubines. One day when the novelty of Zifeng is over, he will still come back. Chapter 5462. After all, he's someone who pursues free love. Today he may have free love with Miss Xie. Tomorrow he may have free love with another lady. But you're all mistresses and will always be mistresses. You can't be brought back and can't enter the Qing family. Miss Xie, you should plan for your future. After all, Zifeng's love for free love isn't something new. Why don't you enter the Qing family and be a concubine? Qiao Xueshi's voice wasn't soft and Xie Yuan's face turned red. Everyone around them heard her and pointed at her, mocking her. Xie Yuan couldn't find a way out of this embarrassing situation. At this moment, Qing Zifeng appeared. He ran over quickly and saw that Xie Yuan's face was pale and her eyes were red. He shouted at Qiao Xueshi, "What are you doing here? Did you bully Yuan? Qiao Xueshi said those words just to vent her anger. She was not the kind of person who could watch her husband marry a concubine without reacting. She just wanted to see if this woman called Xie Yuan would feel ashamed after hearing those words. So this woman also knew shame? She just pointed out the other party's identity. Qing Zifeng's angry shout pulled her back to reality. She suddenly felt that she was different from before, and it was all because of Tanggua. If not for Tanggua, she might not even have the courage to stand in front of Xie Yuan today. Xie Yuan cried, "Young Mistress Qing, you're too humiliating. Qiao Xueshi, if you don't want to divorce, can't you just stay there? Why did you have to bully Yuan? How did I bully her? I'm just trying to make her understand that she's now a mistress. She's going to lose face here. It's different from foreign countries. Here, anyone who becomes a mistress will be looked down upon. It's self-deprecating and shameless." Qing Zifeng could not hold it in anymore. He raised his hand and was about to slap Qiao Xueshi. Unexpectedly, the bodyguard beside saw it and rushed over to protect Qiao Xueshi. At this moment, Qing Zixiao rushed over. "Sister-in-law, are you okay?" How did Qing Zixiao know? Of course, it was Tanggua who inadvertently mentioned it to him. She even reminded him that he was a little worried and asked him to come and take a look. Qing Zixiao naturally didn't refuse this time and went along with the flow. Seeing this scene, he did not want to cause a ruckus outside. It seemed that Qiao Xueshi did not suffer any losses and planned to bring her back. However, he also saw that Qing Zifeng was about to hit Qiao Xueshi. "Big brother, I hope you won't regret what you did today." Originally, he was still hesitating, but now he didn't want to endure anymore. Qing Zifeng had forced him to do all of this. He had tolerated everything, but in the end he had lost everything. He couldn't even protect the person he loved the most. What was the use of that? Qiao Xueshi didn't say anything else. She had said enough today. "Did Xiaogui tell you?" "Yes," Qing Zixiao replied. "He's worried." In fact, he was even more worried. Only Xiaogui can consider so many things. Qiao Xueshi's eyes were blank. "Don't learn from your brother. You must treat Xiaogui well. Otherwise I won't let you off." "Sister-in-law, what are you saying? How can I be the same as my brother? We are two different people. I will never do what he did." "It's good. Being able to marry Xiaogui is your good fortune. You must cherish it," Qiao Xueshi said. "I think she will slowly forget what happened in the past. As long as you never have a change of heart and treat her well." Qing Zixiao did not feel good, but he only wanted to treat her well. Chapter 5463. Sister-in-law, are you really willing to wait for Big Brother to come home? Qiao Xueshi got off the rickshaw and was about to step into the Qing family's house when Qing Zixiao suddenly caught up with her. Qiao Xueshi was also stunned by the question. Was she really willing to wait for Qing Zifeng to come home? He didn't know. Since ancient times, when men were unfaithful outside, it was always the women who were waiting for them to come home. According to her parents' wishes, she should wait for the day when Qing Zifeng came to his senses, when he was done with the novelty and came home. At that time life would still be as usual. Why was she not willing to wait for him in her heart? When Qing Zifeng said that meeting her was a regret, and when Qing Zifeng was flustered and exasperated because of Xie Yuan and wanted to hit her, she suddenly felt that waiting was meaningless. Even if Qing Zifeng was willing to come home one day, come to his senses or repent, Qiao Xueshi would not be the same as before. She would pretend that nothing had happened in the past and could still live peacefully with him. She really couldn't do it. "What can I do if I don't wait?" Qiao Xueshi didn't turn back and asked calmly. She stepped over the threshold and didn't say anything else. Qing Zixiao's surname was also Qing, and he was Qing Zifeng's biological brother. She didn't know why he asked this question. Was he afraid that she would have some thoughts, so he came to sound her out? After all, Qing Zixiao couldn't be considerate of her. Actually, he was overthinking. Even if she wanted a divorce, she had to get her father's approval first. If her father didn't agree, she wouldn't be able to live a peaceful life for the rest of her life. Even if she really got a divorce with her father's personality, he would probably immediately find a marriage for her. She might even become a concubine. Age wasn't a problem, and neither was personality. What was important was that this family was rich and could give him a large sum of money. Instead of that, she might as well stay in the Qing family. At least she could live a peaceful life. With the Qing family around, at least her father wouldn't be able to cause trouble. Qing Zixiao looked at Qiao Xuexi's back and read her helplessness. He remembered that she had a father who was very difficult to deal with. Even if she wanted a divorce, it might not be possible. The first one to jump out was her father. Even if Qiao Dashi did not dare to threaten the Qing family would definitely not forget about the Qin family during the holidays. They would more or less send some things over. If there were no benefits, Qiao Xuexi would be the one suffering. Thinking about it this way, it was better for Qiao Xuexi to stay in the Qing family for the time being. Sister-in-law, don't worry. From today onwards, Big Brother won't be able to bully you. Xuexi, no one can bully you. Qing Zixiao's voice was so soft that no one heard it except for himself. The only way for Xuexi to live a good life was for the entire Qing family to fall into his hands and for him to control the Qing family. You seem to be very busy recently. Tang Gua saw Qing Zixiao leaving in a hurry and didn't even have time to have breakfast. Why didn't you have breakfast before leaving? Your body can't take it. Qing Zixiao paused. He was about to sit down and eat breakfast, but then he remembered what he had to do. He paused for a moment and continued to walk outside. His voice came back. Yeah, I have a lot of things to do recently. He had to be busy. Qing Zixiao's back disappeared before her eyes. Tang Gua didn't chase after him, nor did she have any intention of stopping him. She sat in the room and slowly ate her breakfast. When she was almost done, she said to Lu Shuang, "Go to the kitchen and tell them to prepare breakfast an hour earlier starting tomorrow." That you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.